Hi everyone, this is Kyle. Just letting you know that there is going to be some audio issues with this episode, unfortunately. I think what ended up happening was somehow the episode got recorded through the Yeti microphone that was on my desk near my monitor, rather than the actual microphones we were talking into. But for some reason, we could still hear ourselves through the headsets, so I don't exactly know what happened. But anyway, you're going to hear this hum throughout the entire episode, which is annoying. I'm going to try my best to sort it out, but I'm no expert on this. So yeah, I apologize for that, and hopefully you're able to at least somewhat enjoy the episode, regardless of the issues. But if you can't get through it for some reason, I don't blame you. So yeah, sorry about that. Hopefully you enjoy. Megan, her brother's a big fan.
Oh, really?
I think he listens to every episode.
Oh, nice.
He even listened to the one that was like just me.
Really?
Yeah, which I'm like, wow, why? I'm sorry.
That'll be like, yeah, once we get to like 100 episodes or something like that, it'll be 100 with an asterisk.
Yeah.
It's just like, does this one really count?
It's really 99. It's just...
Well, that was the one where Justin listened to that one. He's like, I want to get Kyle to watch more Keanu movies.
So yeah, her brother's a big fan. And I am going to New York Wednesday.
Really?
So I'll be gone from Wednesday until the 11th or 12th, whatever that is.
Yes.
So...
You're going to New York? You and Megan?
Yeah.
Nice.
We're going there. I've never been to New England area, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Big Apple.
The Big Apple. And she's got a friend who lives there, so no hotel costs. So we'll get to stay with her. That'll be nice. She's got like an itinerary plan.
Unless it turns into God, I'm drawing fucking blank now. It would have been a great joke.
Warriors?
No. No, I was going to say it turns into Nicholas Winding Refn film.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would like that until like the last third of the movie.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The build-up would be there.
The build-up, the aesthetic, the music, I'd be like, yeah, I'm vibing to this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, my head's just cut off and
Yep.
I'm in a gutter.
Yep.
And Ryan Gosling standing over me, being like,
well, it'd be a bunch of people just standing in a statue-like pose with one person walking ominously towards you for 10 minutes.
You hear like the echoes of the footsteps through the alleyways like really clearly.
Oh yeah.
Because like there's no music going on then.
But they got the like the synth. The synth, the colors. No, I'm just saying like the colors. Like the colors on the. You're just looking down. There's like a puddle of water.
It's just a lot of purple.
Very vibrant.
A lot of pink.
And you can just hear it
glowing off my face.
But those footsteps take 10 minutes to get to.
And then I walk up to my girlfriend, and then I take like 5 seconds to really think about what I'm gonna say. You know, I go.
Yep.
So I heard this pizza place is supposed to be really good.
Yeah, and then she does the thing where she like kind of like is staring down and then looks up slowly at you, and she goes, "Same."
I could really go for a slice.
Footsteps keep walking.
That's the first 20 minutes of the film.
Oh yeah, yeah. 4 lines of dialogue, but it looks beautiful and the sound mixing is incredible.
Oh yeah, technically it's a marvel. But,
yes.
Substance-wise, you know.
Yeah.
It's like a kiddie pool. You just get your ankles wet and nothing more.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna intro.
All right.
I don't take it seriously. There's a lot of feet in a lot of good movies. That's just good direction. Like before me, the person foot fetishism was defined by was Louis Buñuel, another film director, and Hitchcock was accused of it, and Sofia Coppola has been accused of it. I'm pretty sure you can probably guess who this director is.
Tarantino?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, and why there's feet in his film?
Why there's a lot of women's bare feet in his movies.
Yes.
So, I just, I feel like we've had a lot of quotes that are, implying the deeper sort of edges of cinema and like what movies are supposed to be in terms of like how generations view them or what people look at superheroes and what they think. I just decided to go with something a little tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah,
a little cheesy. A quote that is not really substantive at all, but does touch on today's topic.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so I read, just doing a little bit of research, so I guess we can tie this in. Rose McGowan, who was in Planet Terror, she said that while she was, working on that with Robert Rodriguez and Tarantino, and shot, it was a double feature because he shot Death Proof, right?
Okay.
Anyways, he came up to Rose McGowan and was like, "Oh my God, I loved you in Jawbreaker. You were phenomenal. That's why I wanted to hire you. The scene of you painting your toes and Jawbreaker I use in like all my films or whatever." And she pretty much said like, "It's insane that this guy came up to me and pretty much told me that he was jerking off to me painting my toes at a very young age and bragging about it
Bold.
loudly to everyone."
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh, okay, so maybe it is a thing." I don't know if the guy does it. I mean, I should say it like that. He does.
Oh yeah, he does.
Like 100%.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And
yeah.
He didn't say no. That's my biggest takeaway from this quote, is that he didn't deny it.
Yeah, he just defined what it is, or whoever defined it.
He didn't really touch on it too much. He was just like, yeah, I mean, it's in my movies, and take that how you will. It's been in other movies.
Yeah.
So.
He had the most screen, like a lot of the time, direction wise, he's behind the camera, except in Death Proof he was. And in Death Proof, it has the most shots of feet out of any of his films by triple the amount.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I watched From Dusk Till Dawn, and he wrote that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a scene he's a character in the movie. He's like a secondary character. And there's a scene where Salma Hayek literally pours alcohol down her leg onto her foot for Quentin Tarantino's character to suck off.
Yes.
And at that moment, it was like the biggest confirmation for me, like the biggest check mark that I think I could ever find in any one of his movies that he's worked on. That he definitely has a foot fetish. Not judging,
Sure.
You can like what you like. To each their own, as long as you're not hurting anybody or yourself or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just nice to know that it's consistent.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to know that you're going to get it with pretty much every one of his movies. I think the only exception being Reservoir Dogs, if I remember correctly. There's not really feet stuff in that movie.
No, I think he, pardon the pun, that put his toe in the water with Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction definitely had it, but
yeah,
Reservoir Dogs a little more reserved.
Well, was he a student? Was that a student film of his, or was it right after he graduated that he came out with that?
I don't know. It could have been. I'm not really sure.
And that was that would have been 30 years ago, and he's 60. So I mean, maybe it was the first one that I know it was his first big film, but I think it was independent. I don't even know if that got big production on. He eventually got Harvey Weinstein on the side, but which is probably not the best.
I mean, in hindsight,
Yeah. Well, even in foresight, it was So we'll talk about it when we go to the Kill Bill. So I had to read up on it because of the relationship with Uma Thurman and my thoughts on the Kill Bill stuff, what was going on, things I didn't know. So, anyways, looking forward to those talks.
Oh yeah, that'll be a nice. That'll be a nice discussion about the making of the movie, kind of like Stalker in a way.
Yes.
Where there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Speaking of scenes.
Speaking of scenes.
There's scenes in Black Panther, Whack My Honda Forever, is what I've been calling it. So.
Is that the car that's driven in it?
Yeah, that's the sponsor. That's how they got all the money for the movie.
Nice.
is the Honda. So we both watched this movie. We don't have to talk about it for too long.
Spoilers. There will be spoilers.
Yeah, we will be spoiling it. So if you haven't seen this, check it out before you listen to us talk about it. Mm-hmm. Did you want me to get this one, or did you want to get this
I'm going to let you get this because I don't know where my phone's at.
Okay.
So, eventually when we take a break here, I will find that thing.
All right.
I think it's in the chair.
So reach in the depths and the bowels of my cushions.
Oh, God.
That's not a euphemism. That's not a euphemism, I swear. So this film, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, is directed by Ryan Coogler. It stars Letitia Wright, Lupita Nyong'o, Denai Guerrera. It's got, who's the dude that plays Namor? Let me just confirm that. Tenoch Huerta Mejia. Apologies if I butchered that horribly, but
you guys can DM us. We'll apologize there.
Takes place in the MCU, of course, and follows Letitia Wright's character Shuri as she is frantically trying to basically take up the responsibilities that Chadwick Boseman's character has left behind, and so there's a lot that comes with that in terms of like grief and loss and a sense of like responsibility for Wakanda as a nation.
Pretty much her coping and trying to accept, the future of where Wakanda's at. Mm-hmm. And the mom, yeah.
And all the while, they discover that there is another kingdom, an underwater kingdom that also uses, what is it? Vibranium.
Yes.
That uses vibranium as its main natural resource. Because they thought that Wakanda was the only kingdom on Earth that had access to it. So therein lies a lot of conflict that arises from that, and that's pretty much it.
It was a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I do my best. I try to be descriptive.
He doesn't have it written down, I swear.
You can't see it, but my eyes go into like a sort of weird kind of flickering motion when I have to think of these things.
Yeah, like AI.
I'm like a human computer.
Yeah.
I'm a neural net processor, a learning computer. So yeah, I was surprised at how much I liked this movie, and it's not perfect. It's definitely
100%. Yeah, not perfect.
Yeah, but I was surprised at how much I did enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I thought that they handled Chadwick Boseman's character not being in the movie as best as they could.
I thought it was
till a certain point.
Even I don't know. I for me, closure and that stuff and how crazy that happened. Mm-hmm. Just kind of the abruptness of it and where they had to go. I thought it was very. I thought it was well deserved.
It was appropriate.
Yes, I mean I really liked it. They did a nice send off. They had a moment of silence in the film, which I think is always hard to do. I mean, if you go to football games or whatever, they always say, hey, moment of silence. Some asshole butthead's got to say something, or people just don't care. So you're kind of in a movie theater, it's already quiet, they do the moment of silence. And I was like, that's well done.
Are you talking about when the logo popped up?
And they didn't do any, they gave it 30 seconds of silence, and you could tell, I think they did it for a reason.
Oh, yeah. So, for those who haven't, seen it and are still listening, but don't care about spoilers, I guess, in the movie, the usual Marvel movies, they have the Marvel logo pop up, and they have, the main theme playing with a montage of all the different heroes, and then, it pops up, and then the movie starts. This movie, they did that, but instead of all the other MCU actors, it's solely Chadwick Boseman.
Yep.
And the music is not there, and they kind of coat it in this sort of black and purple aesthetic. Yep. Instead of it being red. So I thought that was really cool. Nobody in my theater said anything when that popped up.
No, and mine too.
Yeah.
And it was
pretty impactful, surprisingly. I didn't think it would get that much of an emotional response out of me as it did.
Well, it takes out the fact that you're seeing a movie, which I think is always a hard thing to do. Because you're in there, you just paid money to see a movie, and they made it very personalized, a human level, as opposed to, hey, you're giving us your money to watch, these superheroes take each other on.
Yeah, it's reminding us of the fact that
we lost someone.
Yeah, we lost someone. So it's it's very impactful that way, and I thought it was done in a very respectful way. Mm-hmm. I liked how they handled it.
I could, because I'm with you, they kind of lingered on it, and they did a little too much, but I'm like, this is the last time that we're going to have Chadwick Boseman like this, where they can take, I shouldn't say take advantage of it, but do what is right and necessary.
Yeah.
And so it's, the guys, there's going to be another 50 Marvel movies released. He will no longer be in them. He's gone. And, this is their last time. So as much as they did with it, and they wanted to kind of come back to it and remind us and make a sentiment, I thought it was all appropriate. I mean, did I feel like it kind of lingered? Yeah, but at the same token, like, you know, if they would have made the whole movie like that, I still would have nodded my, you know, tipped my cap to them and be like, you know, that's respectful.
Yeah.
So.
I thought that was all well and good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of just the movie by itself, too, I think it's fairly well done. I liked the more kind of serious angle of it because it is touching on the fact that a character has died and that they're trying to deal with it in their own ways. And so you get like a lot of individual sentiment from like the sister and the mom, and like eventually when the girlfriend shows up, Lupita Nyong'o.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed those characters quite a bit. I thought that they really were like the backbone of the movie.
Yeah, well, and they give it that emotional drive that was essentially the whole tone of the film was, how are we going to take this next step with our king gone? And you get to see everyone kind of, I won't say freaking out, but definitely unhinged and making decisions that they probably weren't ready to make, that are really in the moment.
Yeah, it seemed like a natural progression of like things that would actually take place after losing the Black Panther.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I mean it felt real, and it's kind of hard to make a 2-hour and 40-minute film on coping.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean that's why that's why I said it's nowhere near perfect, but in terms of what they were going for, I think they hit it. I think they did a really good job with it. They made it probably as entertaining as they could with some of the sentiment that was going on. Yeah, and I thought was it Shuri? Shuri. I thought she was amazing.
Yeah, she did a good job. Her acting was really on point in this movie.
You can feel, I mean, every time you see her, I always felt kind of that, she always presented a missing piece. She always looked, until the very end, I mean, she always looked like there was something that she was unsure of, or there was just a little bit of a void there that was filled up with, you know, mixed emotions. And that's what kind of the driving point of the whole thing. And once you got to be the Black Panther, was what was going to be her end motivation. You know, to how would she react having this power?
Yeah.
Would it be filled off of vengeance and hatred and violence, or would it be for love and compassion and, you know, understanding what's gone is gone, and, you know, taking that next step forward? So every time that she was on the screen, it always felt like that there was something missing, and she did a great job presenting that throughout the film. I don't think there was ever once where I was like, oh yeah, she's gonna take the next step, and like she doesn't care, she's ready to go, she's just, you know, angry. It always just felt like that Boseman was missing from the film, and she presented it in that light.
Yeah, there's a lot of mixed emotions happening with her, and I think that's where her acting really shines through, is that she's able to display a multitude of feelings that are pretty much happening around like the same time, and do it in a convincing way. I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know how you felt about it, but I felt like the movie had some like weird pacing issues at points. I think specifically when they tried to implement humor into it, I don't think it worked quite as well.
Agreed.
Yeah, like the scene that pops into my head when I talk about this is when they're in the garage trying to escape from the police that are outside. That whole scene to me felt really kind of forced and stilted.
Like disjointed?
Yeah, like it was just so set apart from like the rest of the movie. And it's not like that long of a scene, but the fact that it like, stands out so much to me is like, okay, the whole momentum of this has just kind of come to a halt.
Yeah.
And I'm not really a fan of like how they're shooting this, like the type of humor that they're trying to get across. It's like sort of panicked, awkward humor, like, oh my god, what do we do, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. I wasn't like a huge fan of that. I liked the bridge fight that came after. I enjoyed that with the
the watermen?
the water people. The avatars.
Oh my god, dude. So I saw a trailer for this. I don't remember what movie I watched, but I saw a trailer for this, and while we were watching it, I thought it was Avatar 2.
Right.
And then they say, you know, and then you could kind of see Shuri pop up, and Lupita, I don't know if she popped up, the other...
Denai Guerrera, maybe?
What was her name?
Oh, I forget her character name. I just
the
know her.
warrior princess, or the head war chief.
Yeah, like the
general. Or the general, yeah.
Yeah, I forget her character name, but the only reason I know of her is because she's in Walking Dead.
Yes, that's how I know her too. So,
Okoye is her character name.
Okoye?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Which I did not remember that at all.
Yeah.
I just looked at her and said, "That's Michonne." That's Denai.
Yeah, that's how I see her every time too. Yeah. So no, actually, I just forgot where I was going with this.
The Avatar 2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So until she popped up, I thought it was Avatar 2, and then I think, honestly, I think James Cameron is like really pissed off that this came out and they showed all that stuff going on, because they really look like avatars.
Right,
like,
blue water people.
From a
very tribal aesthetic.
Yeah, like it's like from a distance, like because in the trailers they don't linger on them.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, when they popped up on the ship for the first time, I thought they were like integrating Avatar 2 because it's under like the Disney framework.
Oh yeah, because Disney owns Fox now.
Yeah, so I thought they were like getting. I was really confused. It's a weird time for both those films to be coming out, and I don't know if they're playing off each other or what, but bizarre.
I can't wait to see Star Wars and Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm so excited. I can't wait.
I can't tell if you're being serious or not.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm very good at hiding my sarcasm.
Well,
but
Guardians could be good. But, I mean,
I'm looking forward to that, yeah. That's probably like the one Marvel movie that I'm like really kind of...
See, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
I saw, speaking of which, not to get too off topic, but I did see a poster pop up for the Blue Beetle.
Oh, did you?
I was like, oh wow, Mac wasn't bullshitting.
I told you.
It's actually a real movie that's happening.
Where I got into it, but I got Google on there and I saw the poster for it. It's a very neon-esque poster, so I was like, well, I'm going with the Blue Beetle right now.
I was gonna say, I looked at it and it kind of gives me a little like kind of synthwave feeling almost.
Right?
Like vibrant blue color. Cyberpunk sort of aesthetic.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't know if they're going for like an 80s thing with it, if they're going to pull back and do some like really...
I hope they lean heavily into it, because that'd be tight.
Thank you. See, there you go. Alright, friend, that knows what I'm talking about that got upset that I didn't do my research, piss off.
Oh yeah. Shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out and fuck you.
I'm saying, I'm not... It's so hard, like this one, like I didn't know who knew that what Black Panther did, and by the way, the Black Panther's hardly in this thing. This is like one of the things where if you're looking forward to seeing the Black Panther, just rewind it to the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, right, you want to see like the Black Panther.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she doesn't don the costume until like the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so, whatever, like you said.
And I thought it was, I don't even know if they had to do the whole ritual thing. Like I don't know. I could be way off.
Yeah. How did you feel about them bringing back Michael B. Jordan? Because I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that being integrated in the movie yet.
I don't know if they're keeping Kling monster.
Killmonger.
Klingon
monster.
Oh my God. Well, there's a old Klingon proper. Killmonger, because they want to keep up with some of the what if scenarios, or if they ever get into like a what if movie, and Killmonger ends up being in it, where they're just kind of holding his character to keep it kind of surfaced, So I think his cameo was in there for setting it up for a later time, Like I don't know if there's something going on. Do you remember in Thor Love and Thunder, the end of that, where they make it to Valhalla? Maybe he's at Valhalla.
Could be.
I don't know. I feel like that we're not done with Killmonger, though.
The afterlife is just a whole series of different planes that exist on the same level.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was worried that they were going to try to pull some like CGI recreation thing with Chadwick Boseman when she made it into like the ancestral plane. But I'm glad that they didn't, because that would have been terrible.
I don't think they would. I think what they did at the very beginning there was pretty much patting his cough and saying, we've been incredibly grateful for what you did, and you meant a lot to a lot of people, and it's unfortunate. Have you seen the Twitter clip that's going around?
Where he's like giving an interview?
Yeah, he goes, I'm dead.
Yep.
I'm dead.
I've seen that a couple times.
People are like...
It's eerie.
It really is.
But I wonder, because it could go either way, like how long before did he know that he was sick? Like, did he know during that interview and he's just kind of playing it off because his character gets disintegrated in Infinity War?
Yeah.
So is it more so like him saying I'm dead because he got disintegrated, or him saying I'm dead because he knows that he's sick and isn't going to live
what I don't know.
long? Like, I don't know. But it is like an eerie clip either way.
He's smiling and saying it, but like the way he's saying it, I was like, this feels really sarcastic.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. I mean, and it goes in the same token. Like, he's saying it sarcastically because he knows he'll be back in, you know, the Endgame.
Yeah.
And that way it's a cop out, so he doesn't have to answer the question. Or he's saying it sarcastically because he could care less. He you know, you got 15 months, son. And he's just kind of, he's processing it as he's going along, and he can't tell anyone that he's going to, you know.
I tend to lean more towards it being the former. Because I think, like, a lot of actors at the time, they'd get asked shit about Endgame, and they couldn't say anything, obviously.
Right.
Under
guess,
NDA.
Holland, I guess, was going off at the...
Tom Holland. He just spoils everything.
They said that he was, like... yeah, they said he effed it up.
Yeah.
But, no, that's what, I think so, too. And I don't... Whether or not, it doesn't matter. Him as a person, I mean, it's him coping with whatever, either the question or the fact that he knows he's got a terminal illness. Either way, it doesn't affect me. I think the bigger issues, people are trying to make it up into Hollywood and how, you know, the powers that be are keeping him quiet so he can't tell anyone that he's going to die. And there's a conspiracy theory out there now that, you know, these producers hold more weight and they, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
The way it was presented when I saw the thing. So anyways, no, I'm happy that they didn't do CGI Chadwick. I didn't really, that's what the whole ritual thing, I guess it was there because in the first one they did it and he met with someone and I guess, you know.
I think it was his dad.
Yeah. And there was, so you didn't really know who she was going to be when she got into this thing. So I think people that were maybe really invested into the whole ritual and it defining where you're going to kind of be with the Black Panther once you put on the suit, they might have been like, appalled and aghast. But
yeah.
What do you think about the Guatemalan actor? I like the dude.
The guy who played Namor?
Was that Namor? He was the
You're talking about the
god.
villain?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I liked him. I thought he was decent. Like, I didn't think he was like super memorable, but I enjoyed.
Really?
Yeah, I enjoyed like his conflict involved in the story, but like him as a character specifically, I was like, I'm not like super connected with. And
well, it's hard to connect to a god. I mean, you know.
Yes.
Well, maybe not. We're all made in his image.
I don't know. Have you seen Chris Hemsworth in Dreamboat? I can connect with him all day. But no, I thought he did a decent job. I think he played the character well. It's just, it's one of those things where obviously he's going to be included in a lot more of the movies coming up, and so we know his backstory and we know like, you know, where he comes from and like who he is status wise, but we don't really know like him as a character yet. So.
I thought he did a phenomenal job of acting. Like a lot of the emotions they get. This is one of the more emotional Marvel movies, especially with what's kind of being depicted. I mean, sure he's got to deal with the loss of her brother, and then this guy's trying to protect this whole nation because he, you know, it's his tribe, and you know he feels that he's got to protect it at all costs.
Yeah.
And the way that he would talk about things, I mean, you could really feel how. It wasn't vindictive at all because it wasn't like he wanted to seek it, but he wanted to definitely protect, and it meant a whole lot. And I thought he portrayed it really well. But I haven't heard anything on the guy. I thought he did a fantastic job.
I think he's pretty like new to the scene.
Yeah, probably.
I liked his parallels too with the conflict that Shuri goes through. Because you get his backstory, you kind of get a sense that like they sort of have a parallel kind of situation that they're dealing with, and so that kind of converges and comes to a point towards the climax of the movie where they're on the beach fighting with each other. Yeah, which I enjoyed that. I thought that was pretty effective and visceral in some ways. What did you think of the special effects? Because I thought some of them were pretty decent, and then others not so much.
I really liked the coming in on the whales and a lot of the water stuff.
Yeah.
When it came to the fighting in the air and all that, I just...
There's a scene where Namor lands on something because he's got those wings on his ankles, and that just... It almost took me out of it. That was very poor looking.
There's a couple, it's shoddy, but I mean, I thought in terms of people riding a bunch of whales coming to, you know, fitting in through a canal and all that stuff or going on the bridge, I thought of it. It never took me out of it. Yeah. You know, it wasn't, I mean, I know there are whales there, but, you know, watching it, I didn't go, oh, that's definitely CGI. You know.
Let's talk about we can wrap this up soon, but let's talk about the ending and the whole fire scene, which is Shuri sitting by the fire. She's kind of really finally accepting what happened to her brother, and you get flashes of Chadwick Boseman.
Closure.
You get a sense of closure. And then the mid-credit scene. Did you stick around and watch the mid-credit scene?
Of course.
Okay. I want to talk about that a little bit, because that to me felt so tacked on. I was not a fan of that at all.
I don't know what they're going for.
That was like, it was like, oh, we have closure on Chadwick, but now we have to like continue his legacy through this son that the character has.
I don't know.
It felt like so shoehorned in and tacked on. I sat there, I was like, huh, okay.
It doesn't make any sense to me. The kids too.
Yeah.
Are we gonna have these movies with growing up with this guy? Like, did they pick out a kid that will be the Black Panther for the next 30 years? Like, I don't.
I know, and I'm struggling too to like see the point of it.
Yeah, I don't get it. I didn't understand it. I felt completely good, and then they did the whole thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, you're an aunt. Here's your nephew. He's the next king of Wakanda, and I'm like,
his name's T'Challa.
Yeah, cool.
Wouldn't you know?
Did anyone think, like, for a second that this was just some kid? Like, seriously. The whole time, they kept bringing up, like, Lupita Nyong'o was bringing stuff up about, like, being an aunt, or, you know, T'Challa would have been a great dad, and all, and I'm like, for some reason, I think that she got out of this because she had a kid. Sure as shit, she has a kid. And then all of a sudden, it's like, his name's T'Challa, and then Shuri's like, oh, like,
It just felt so unnecessary to me. Like, you didn't need it in the movie at all. And like, even though it's a mid-credit scene, I don't know. To me, it almost cheapened what came before it, with like her sitting by the fire and remembering Chadwick Boseman. Like, it like kind of took the oomph out of it a little bit for me.
And see, it did not for me, just because this is like a non-filler. Mm-hmm. You know, this is the part of the meal where it's a cup, you could eat it, you can't, it ain't gonna
It's like an Andes
mint
mint that you get at the end of an Olive Garden.
Yeah, it's not good, like, you're not waiting for that thing, you know? Like, you get it, and it's like, either you like it or you don't, but there's definitely, it didn't take away from the experience of eating at Olive Garden, which is always delicious.
They treat you like family.
Yeah.
As they say in the Sonic movie.
Oh my god, I'd like to see a drunk manager. Yeah, so, no, I didn't really have an issue with it, but at the same token, I didn't like how they, you know, they did, everything was appropriate for the whole film I'm going on. They didn't treat us like idiots. They were kind of like, this is what we're going through, the Shuri's going through this, you're going to get to live through these emotional drives and experiences, you know, and all that, closure with Chadwick and all, and then, oh, by the way,
yeah.
Oh, and it's like, come on,
I know.
You had the whole thing, like,
it felt like way too like dun dun dun.
Yes, like treating us like we didn't know. You know, like, I get out. Like, I don't think if anyone watches that, maybe 1 out of 100 people would be like, oh my god, I couldn't believe that.
Wow, can you believe he has a son? Wow,
Yeah.
Best part of the movie.
Well, and then it's like, what are we gonna do with the kid? What are you doing with him now? What are you doing? What are you gonna do?
Is he actually gonna go somewhere?
He's
or?
fucking 2. You know, like, great. Like, all right, you just showed him. What are we gonna do? Watch him getting babysat? Like, he's gonna, you know, now it's probably gonna be a plot device in the third one where they're trying to, you know.
He gets kidnapped, and then you gotta save him.
Well, then it's gonna turn into some really weird political stuff because there's all this human trafficking going on, you know. So,
That would be very dramatic. I would be interested to see the MCU.
They could
touch
do it.
that.
I mean, they're not afraid to take on some of the political, like the Me Too movement. I mean, this felt like a very minority, female-driven empowerment. You know, I think one of the nice things that I heard was like the first lines of dialogue that really are spoken throughout this whole thing are female-driven. Like the first 20 minutes are females talking about what they're going to do if you keep messing with us, and this is the power that we have. And
yeah, it didn't feel forced though, which I liked. It didn't feel like it was unnatural. Like the situations that arose from it, like the characters that just happened to be there, it just felt like, and they were already pre-established characters too, which helped. It's not like they introduced like a bunch of new female characters and they were like, hey women, let's go kick some ass, or like whatever.
Right.
Like they're characters that we already knew about, and so I think that helped quite a bit.
Yeah, it's just elevated the character. you know, and some of the situations that's going on. But I think Disney, what they try to do, and sometimes they do a good job, like with this one, is they tie in some of the things that are going on outside in the world and attach it to their little universe, and they can make some statements and do some really nice things if they're genuine. See, that's the only problem that I have with corporate America is like this is like boy, we don't want to lose that 6%, so let's make sure that we get this thing right.
And a good example of not being genuine is that girl boss power team up scene in Endgame when they all like all the women superheroes are just happen to be together.
All right, but we gotta really shoehorn this in here somewhere. We missed out. Let's get 6 minutes of them kicking ass. How's that sound?
Yeah, it almost felt like an obligation.
Yeah.
Like, all right, we gotta put the female empowerment scene.
And they actually used Harvey Weinstein's voice and CGI'd it on Thanos.
Oh wow, I can't believe it. How did they get those recordings?
Yeah. So I thought this one.
It's way more appropriate in using that.
That's what I'm saying. This film, I mean, a lot of what they did, I thought was
like it's so subtle. I didn't even think about it as a theme until you really brought it up.
It was, to me, it was somewhat apparent when it was first going on. Shuri going through her emotional stuff and the Queen of Wakanda trying to guide everyone and the general. And a lot of it was, you know, there's a lot of female characters. I was like, oh, I mean, it's taking that next step for females, saying, hey, this is what we're capable of doing when there isn't a strong male sitting, you know, right in front of us, you know, guiding the hand.
Yeah.
So, but then I was listening and I read some other stuff, and I didn't realize that the first 25 minutes I think it was the first 20 or 25 minutes. I mean, pretty much every line of dialogue spoken by a woman, and a lot of the fight stuff are women. You know, like when they go in to steal the vibranium and they take the guys, the males, and they have the hostages from the state or the country that went in to try to, you know. That's when I was like, oh, for sure. And that's why I think that this movie's really, it's a little bit more of a deeper step than Marvel typically does, I want to say. And I don't think they do it in a way that's over the head.
Yeah, it's not like heavy-handed. It's not disingenuous.
But I think
at least it doesn't feel like it.
No, I agree. That's why I thought. I mean, it's the same thing with the Chadwick Boseman, the silence, and you know the funeral that they had. And I was like, boy, they're gonna take the first 6 minutes of this film and really, you know, let everyone kind of grieve together, you know, in the audience, and do a little bit, hey, you know, in memoriam, you know, by Chadwick, you know.
Yeah.
And that's where all of it really felt appropriate, and that's why I like this one. I mean, it really, like you say, it felt genuine.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of genuine, well, I guess we can give our ratings for this.
Okay.
Unless you had more to say about it.
No, that was it. I would recommend this. I don't know if this is going to be like viewed a second time by me. I think I'd have a hard time being like, all right, I want to see it again. Just because none of it's really, the fights aren't like out there. The message was heard and received, and it's propelling us into the next one. I think there's going to be a next one, so I think it did its job, and I thought it was very, very well done. So, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a 7 out of 10 for me. Thought it was really solid overall.
Mm-hmm.
I was pleasantly surprised by it. I thought I wasn't going to like it as much as I did.
Mm-hmm.
Few issues with the pacing, some stuff where the humor didn't land, some CGI that was kind of wonky, and also that last mid-credit scene really kind of left a bad taste in my mouth.
Wow. All right.
Overall, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Will I ever watch it again? Probably not. But
yeah, this one would be if like some friends were like, "Hey, we're doing a Marvel, you know, we gotta watch all of the films." I'd be like, "Yeah, I can, you know."
Yeah. Let's watch it at 2 times speed so we can get through them quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of speed.
Oh. Definitely not cruise control.
Yeah, we sped along on our journey to watch more movies.
Yes, we did.
And speaking of movies, one of the films we're going to talk about is Kill Bill, Volume 1.
There we go.
So I recommended both the Kill Bill movies.
And I said yes, happily.
Yes, you were jubilant if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I was listening to the episode back and I was like, wow, Mac was like super excited about Kill Bill.
So excited.
He was like, wow, I can't believe it. You recommended my favorite Tarantino films of all time.
Both of them. Yeah, it's just,
Back to back. Wow.
Clubbed over the head with happiness and joy.
I get to watch both these? Wow.
Treat.
Is what you said, I believe. So yeah, I guess if you want, I can grab this one too.
Yeah, you do this one, and then I'm sure I'll be able to do the next one.
Yeah, after a little phone retrieval action.
Yeah, Operation Condor.
Indiana Jones and the couch cushion of
Doom
of endlessness. So this movie, Kill Bill Volume 1, is directed and written by Quentin Tarantino. Stars Uma Thurman, Lucy Liu, Vivica A. Fox, Michael Madsen, Daryl Hannah, and David Carradine, just to name a few. And is about this character who is referred to as the Bride, played by Uma Thurman, who is a victim of a massacre that happens in a wedding chapel during her wedding day or wedding rehearsal, depending on how you come across this movie. I guess.
The Two-Pine Steeple.
The Two-Pine Steeple. And so she is left in a coma for 4 years, and when she comes back from it, she sets herself on a quest for revenge on those who did her wrong. The biggest and most prolific being a character named Bill, hence the title Kill Bill. And so that's pretty much that for Volume 1, I think.
Yeah.
Without going into spoilers. Spoilers for Kill Bill, by the way.
Yeah.
We might also be spoiling the second part too in our discussion. So.
Of course. You guys check it out if you haven't seen it.
So
a little backstory on this. I don't know if you caught up with it. While they were doing Pulp Fiction, Tarantino had a really great time working with Uma Thurman. And during some of the scenes during Pulp Fiction, Uma pitched to him a movie about a person that was on a mission of revenge from being wronged. And so Tarantino, being the fucking, savant that he is, wrote a 30-page script about it, and him and Uma Thurman would work on it together. She'd pitch him some ideas, he'd go back to writing. He wrote a 30-page script on this, and it got set aside. They both went on their different ways, making other films. I think he went on to do Jackie Brown.
Okay.
She was doing some other films, and eventually what happened was, for Uma Thurman's birthday party in like 99 or 2000, somewhere in that time frame, Tarantino finished the script, and for a birthday gift gave it to Uma Thurman and said, we're going to get this produced and made. So that's kind of how the writing and all of it, the initial ideas and the initial story goes with how this thing got created.
It makes sense when the credit pops up that says, based on the character The Bride by Q and U, which I'm assuming is Quentin and Uma.
Yes.
So, yeah, you watching this movie, you do get a sense that like they together as like human beings had like a close friendship and a connection that let them like kind of create this sort of story.
Yeah. So, and I don't know how much of it. I was trying to read up on it today. I thought I read somewhere that Uma Thurman at one point had to have Quentin step aside from her life. Now, eventually, what you find out is something happened, and we'll talk about it.
Oh yeah.
Did you?
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But there was some sort of Quentin Tarantino used to call her his muse.
Yeah.
And he described the relationship as Alfred Hitchcock with Tippi Hedren. I don't know if you've ever read on Hitchcock.
Not super familiar with it.
Very psychologically abusive, and would make her do these things because he was like in love with her,
like infatuated with her.
Yeah, like a stalkerish level sort of thing. So a lot of the times he would put her in compromising positions, probably because he got off on the violence of it. So Tarantino described their relationship as such. Now, as much Tarantino is, a cinephile, savant, and maybe slight autism. Asperger's, whatever you want to call it. you're listening, Quentin, I love you. I think that there's some sort of weird because we'll have some other instances which I will bring up because something got poised earlier during my readings on this that I never really would have thought of.
Yeah.
But when you hear about some of the things he does in these films, it makes you kind of wonder where he's at. But as such,
he comes across as a very neurotic person.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just based on interviews and like things I've read about him and like just his general sense of being.
Oh my!
Seems super neurotic.
Yeah, and it's so crazy how much film knowledge he has that sticks with him. Like, I watched a little Easter egg thing on this thing. They pulled up 49 different movie references, like scenes that he pulled that he put into this, along with like 4 different songs and 2 different quotes.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
And it's just all off these unknown, I would say unknown to probably the
average moviegoer.
Yeah,
probably.
well, even myself. I mean, I'd say I'm a little bit above average, and Lady Snowbird was in this thing like several times.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Game of Death, the Suit of That got referenced. Anyways, he like you said. I mean, it's just his mind is insane, and he's got a very I'd have to imagine visual memory of like when he pulls something, he knows exactly where he's pulling it from. He doesn't have to pull it up or look it up or anything like that. It's just all off his memory, and it's probably like shot for shot.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
So I will say right now, top level. I love this movie.
Really?
I absolutely enjoyed this one.
That is.
I absolutely like. I don't want to use the word adored, but I'm going to.
Okay.
Like I really am a fan of this movie.
So weird, yeah.
I like. You told me that it was like kind of towards like the back end of why like your Tarantino filmography, and like the movies that he's made that you enjoy.
Yep.
And watching it, I kind of get that, but at the same time, this movie it feels so like tongue in cheek with a purpose. Like it feels like it's paying homage to a bunch of different like action movies and and a bunch of different like just movies in general. It feels so stylized, like it feels original but yet derivative, in like a way that like it's paying respect to those types of things, not necessarily that it's like plagiarizing it or stealing it outright. Well, the fact that like you get a sense of like Tarantino really loves like these classic old like spaghetti western type movies, where
but even the Japanese like these samurai action films, or kung fu films,
like anime, like old classic kung fu movies, like action movies that like have all this crazy sound design and choreography, and like clearly like there's a lot of practical stuff going on with the blood and the flips and like wires and stuff that's happening in the movie, but it adds to like this sense of like frenetic energy that sort of carries itself forward with every action scene that happens. And with this movie specifically, I really enjoy the scenes that don't include those where there's a lot of like kind of the tongue-in-cheek stylistic dialogue where characters are sort of talking to each other in like mysterious ways, but you can tell that it's not taking itself too seriously. It's kind of having fun with it.
So and it just I'm highlighting it. He said he went 180 from Jackie Brown on this. He said that Jackie Brown really taught him a lot of lessons in terms of the audience and dealing with the audience. When he created this thing, he wanted to focus a lot on the young talent, let the actors do a lot of the acting, limit the dialogue, make it highly stylized and have a lot of action in it, and just take away from him and put more of his touch on the film, I would say, or at least his direction with what he wanted, not necessarily with him working the camera, but how he saw the film. And he wanted to leave it in the actor's hands. And him and Uma Thurman wrote it, so obviously Uma knows what she wants to do with the character. And I think he probably just handed her the keys and said, here we go.
Yeah. There's so many different moments in this movie that are just chock full of like, I don't even want to say wit, just kind of like balls to the walls kind of humor and sentiment. There's the scene where she's in the bathroom kind of stalking the different people that are in like the Asian club.
Yep. The lawyer.
Yeah. And so the lawyer comes into the bathroom and all of a sudden she has this like, as she's seeing red, and you hear that, I had no idea that was from this movie, or at least like that this movie embraced it. Yeah, I had no idea that it was from this movie.
Yeah.
And then there's also the scene where it's kind of like a oneer, where it goes through the whole club and it kind of follows her, and then it sort of shows the whole crew showing up, and the it makes me think of, it was like a phone commercial. It used that song like woo 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 woo.
Yeah. They play that song.
Yeah, they played that song. I was like, I had no
5,
idea
6, 7, 8.
Like the use of music in this movie too is like really good.
Yeah.
I really love it. When the gang shows up and the da da da, it's like a sports team when they enter an arena.
Yeah.
It's so like kind of like in your face about it, but I just love the fact that it does it that way. I don't know. I'm a sucker for this kind of movie.
It's on you. I rewatching it. I had a much greater appreciation for it this time around than the first time I saw it.
Sweet.
I'm still not a huge fan of the ending scene just dragged down for me. I mean, I love the Easter eggs, but I'm not. Even if I get a reference, I'm not a guy that's like, all right, just throw as many as you can in there and show your different ways, but put it into kind of your voice, if you will. I mean, it's like a mashup. I just some of the stuff it lingers, and I always think the characters I do agree that he let them do what they want to do, but that's why I like Tarantino films because they're more character driven through his dialogue and what he wants out of him, kind of extracts out of him.
Yeah.
And
this definitely feels like a movie that's, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good.
This feels like one of his movies that has like the least amount of like Tarantino dialogue, Tarantino characters.
Yes.
It feels like the characters and like the story is very like separate from Tarantino.
Yes. But it's still his direction.
It's still Tarantino.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. I guess that's what makes it so, to me, incredible is that this dude lays off the writing and yet his direction with it and what he does with it is still pretty cinematic.
Like when I think of certain directors, I just think of them as directors. Like I think of the Safdie brothers, I think of them as directors. I think of Ridley Scott, I think of him as a director. David Lynch. When I think of Quentin Tarantino, I think of him as a director and a writer. Like he's someone to me who has like complete control over the movies that he creates. And I think that because of the dialogue that he includes in a lot of his movies that's like really well written, it really like makes him stand out to me as a writer.
Yes.
If I had just seen this movie, it'd be like, okay, Quentin Tarantino's like a great director. I wouldn't necessarily think of like the writing being as like that much of a standout, but I think it almost feels like with this movie specifically, the writing is kind of supplementary. Like it's not why you're watching the movie. You're watching the movie for the choreography and the cheesy effects and like the whole like
kung fu, dude.
The kung fu, the whole like hyper violence and like the practical effects of it that you can just tell are like, all right, this is clearly like paper mache guy with blood spurting out of his neck or whatever.
Yeah.
But you have so much fun with it because
I don't want horror blood. I want samurai blood.
Yeah.
I want samurai blood.
Samurai blood.
Because back in the 70s, that's like if you got your arm chopped off, that's what they would do. They'd have a little device in there that would spurt out that when she cuts off the guy's head and like it's. I thought I was dying laughing. I thought that was really funny because it's like a water fountain just spurting out all this blood, and then it kind of goes down. Then there's like two more, and then it just dies completely.
That scene, I think there's a reason why the fight in the Japanese club is so prolific, because I think out of all the scenes in like both of these movies, that scene specifically is the one that I think, even if you haven't watched Kill Bill, people would be able to point to it and go, that's Kill Bill. Like, I've seen at least an image of this before, or I've like at least come across this in some form or another. Because it's so, it's a long scene. It's a long scene of her fighting like the crazy 88s or whatever they call themselves.
It was supposed to go for, that scene was supposed to last 2 weeks, right? And that's why I'm actually kind of where it's like, oh shit, it's pretty incredible if you think about it. It lasted 2 months.
Oh my god.
That scene.
You get a sense of like they put a lot of work into it because it's so quick cut, but there's still like a lot of meat on the bone. You get like so many great moments of like her chopping limbs off, and like I think the scene that I laughed at the most was where she literally cuts a dude in half vertically. Like from the camera, you see the sword go down, and then it reveals that it's her.
That's a reference to Ichi the Killer, by the way.
I'm glad that you're here to tell me this because I did not know.
Well, we got done with this, and I was like, I want to find out more about what was going on. So I had a couple misunderstandings about it, and that's where I'm taken back with what I've said earlier on it. But yeah, I did a little bit of more watching on YouTube, and Tarantino's just very polarizing.
Yeah.
So with any of this stuff, there's always more there that you can easily submerge yourself into and just watch media and him talk and go on about the making of. I mean, he's very, he's very polarizing, but he's very outgoing. He's very personal. Well, he's got a personality.
He's almost relatable in a way. Almost.
He's, it's one of those guys, like when you go out and you hang out with some friends and there's that one guy that comes in there that, hey man, this guy's from Colorado, but then he knows all the stuff on Colorado and he starts going on, he's culturable, he brings up, and none of it is in a way that seems, well, at least feels like pompous, but the way he does talk, I mean, some of the things that I've heard, he's very he's got a huge ego.
Oh, he's kind of like a little bit of an artiste, a little bit. Like specifically with like his way of doing movies, but at the same time he's like kind of like, yeah, my movies are bloody. They've got feet in them. So what?
They're the greatest. Well, this is like the greatest fucking films that you're gonna see. That's what I always hear every time he does that. It's like, you don't like it, I don't give a shit because everyone's gonna love it.
Yeah, everyone loves me. Why would I change the way I do things?
Yeah.
That interview that he has with the lady.
Oh my
because God. It's so much fun, Jan. Get it. Yeah. He's like bouncing like a muppet while he's saying that. But I loved the whole change in like certain aesthetics of the movie. So like you get the whole cheesy kind of like wire action with the sword, with the crazy 88s, but then you get that really cool looking blue silhouette fight.
Oh my God.
Towards the end that I just really loved. Like that was
Book of Eli-esque.
I watched that scene and I thought to myself, this has solidified the fact that I love this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I didn't before, which I'm pretty sure that I did, I came across that scene and I thought to myself, yep, I love this movie. There's no way this is going, like, below a 9. Spoiler alert for my rating on it, but I
Psych. It's a 10.
I guess you'll find out when this discussion's over.
Yeah.
But then it leads into like the kind of climactic sort of showdown with Lucy Liu, which sort of more or less takes its time compared to the scenes that came before it, but it still felt stylistic and sort of transitioning into a new way of portraying a fight scene.
Yes.
Which I thought was really cool. I really liked that. I like the fact that it did that. And it really was paced in a really effective way. I liked the pacing of this film quite a bit. Compared to the second one, and we'll get into it when we talk about it, but this movie specifically felt like you're following this character, you're sort of piecing the puzzle pieces together, and some of them you don't get until the second movie, but you're piecing them together as like to how this journey has come about, and it's sort of disjointed, but it's doing it in a way that makes moments later a little more impactful. Like, you get the fight with Vivica A. Fox at the very beginning. You've seen that she already has taken out Lucy Liu's character. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, okay, what are the events that have preceded this? Like, what has gotten her to this point? And so I really enjoyed that. I thought that...
She said that she took out Oren?
I thought I saw on the notebook that her name was already crossed out.
Could have been, yeah.
When she got to Copperhead.
I would definitely believe that, yeah.
So... I liked the editing. I liked the pacing. The few bits of dialogue that were there, I thought were fitting for the atmosphere and the tone that they were going for. And I don't know. I just really enjoyed this movie.
What is it? A Herete Hanzo sword?
Oh yeah.
I love that they kept bringing that up. That was
Hattori Hanzo.
Hattori Hanzo sword.
Mm-hmm.
That was one that kept getting brought up that as it went along, and then you find out. So Hattori Hanzo, that guy, was actually in a Japanese TV series, and the Hattori Hanzo character, every time they did a new episode, it was like Hattori Hanzo number 8, Hattori Hanzo number 9, so he was like, he's at Hattori Hanzo number 100 or whatever he is, he just kept that going, but it was the same guy as paying homage to that. He does,
That's pretty cool.
Yes, yeah, and then the whole dialogue of you have to make it, and they go through, and yeah.
I think they did, obviously it's like from the beginning, like Uma Thurman and Quentin Tarantino's sort of idea that they had together, but I think Uma Thurman is great. I really love her as the character. I think she's perfect for it.
Interesting, and when we talk about the second one, but there's some talk about a superhero in the second one, and it kind of makes you wonder: is that something that is it a reflection of what's going on in the film and what Tarantino has to say about women in general? But then there's other things that pop up that we will talk about that makes it polarizing.
Yes, indeed. I feel like I've been talking a lot. I kind of want to hear what you have to say.
Dude, I like more of my stuff comes from the why they made it. I like the backstory on it about him and Uma. The film itself, like I do like that action scene. I think there's more appreciation that for me that goes into it than it is of me actually enjoying it. I guess I will always say it like this, and this is where people might not connect with me on stuff, but it's kind of like I always bring it up, Stalker. Or All Is Quiet on the Western Front. I can see good films. Now, for me, there's a lot of appreciation that it took 2 months to film one scene that is 35 minutes that you kind of don't think about because it's like, oh shit, like, even though this is cut off, this is all taking place in one area. Makes it that much more impressive, especially with everything, the choreography, the props, the marketing,
the extras,
all that stuff that goes into it, so you really got to appreciate that, the nods that he does to all these films and how he can tie it together into something that's a little bit more Western and modern and you can connect with, and still bring it back to a genre that for us is probably forgotten, but in the 70s, I gotta imagine like Kung Fu was kind of like a new hip thing that was brought from the Eastern side or the Oriental side over to the Western front, and everyone kind of took hold of it. Like karate just became big all of a sudden. I mean, I haven't looked into it, but it wasn't something that was really prevalent. And all of a sudden, everyone wants to do karate and be a kung fu master. And there's funk that came off of it. So I liked all of that. I thought Uma Thurman's great in this. I'm trying to think of who I liked outside of her. And there's a lot, like all the ancillary characters in this, I think just do a really great job. But that's always in Tarantino films. He just does a good job with the actors.
Yeah, like he gets really prolific actors to play almost like bit parts. Like I guess in the next one we'll talk about it, but Sam Jackson, he gets to play Rufus in Volume 2, which is just like I'm pretty sure he only has like 2 or 3 lines.
That's it
in the whole movie.
And
he shows up once. Like it's just, I don't know. Like he's good at casting characters and whoever he uses as like his casting agent or whatever. And I like the fact that those characters, they might not necessarily have like the greatest depth. They might not necessarily have like, 3 dimensions to them. But you get a sense of like who they are and like what their backstories are like. Like the
4 lines of dialogue is all it takes with them.
Yeah.
And you get the shapes of the image of someone.
We haven't even talked about the animated segment in.
I like that one. I mean, I
enjoyed it too.
Yeah, that was probably like I'm watching this and I a little bit fuzzy on some of the stuff, and all of a sudden that one popped up. I was like, oh yeah, I remember watching it. I've seen this.
It's almost like kind of the inverse of how I felt about French Dispatch when they had that animated part come up.
Yes.
Like that, all this, like, to me, that movie, in that instance, it didn't feel entirely appropriate. Like, I would have much rather seen a scene like that was very consistent with how the rest of the story went. This one, it felt very much appropriate because Tarantino was already blending a bunch of different genres together in order to create a specific tone for this movie.
Some of that culture. And I don't know exactly what culture it is because someone makes reference to how they don't like Japanese people in this film. I don't know if it's a Korean culture that they're going with. I don't know if it's just like a Eastern Asian culture altogether that's just kind of
like mishmash together.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that he pulled from a lot of different venues and just kind of presented it as like a Eastern philosophy, Eastern sort of image, as opposed to some sort of nationality.
Yeah, anything specific. It was just really kind of a conglomeration.
Yes.
Yeah, which I really like that animated part too. I thought it was fitting. I thought it was well animated.
Well, and the people that think that drew it up and had that whole. I don't know if it was directed. I don't remember if I saw in the credits that it was a different piece altogether that had a whole different direction, and it was given to Tarantino to put in there. He just said, "Hey, this is I want to have this written up. This is 10 pages here. Put it in context like that." I think that's kind of because I know that there was a team that worked on it, but all of it was people from Eastern descent, So Asian descent. I mean, I don't exactly know. I'm trying not to step on toes here.
I think you're good.
Yeah. But that's what I really liked about it too, was that he didn't pull any, hey, I gotta get this dude paid, so let me grab, Joe Blow here and he'll do it. Like, he was pulling people that actually had experience working on this and were probably a master of their craft and said, I want you to be a part of this film.
Yeah.
Which is it's really cool, especially when you talk about, movies where it's reflecting someone and they don't pull someone from Japan. It's like, hey, we're going to get someone from America. Like, even Lucy Liu, they did make sure that they highlighted that she was Asian American. Which, funny thing, he wrote it out for someone, like, Japanese woman. But he saw his buddy really liked Shanghai Noon.
Yeah.
And his buddy made him watch Shanghai Noon, so that's how he got Lucy Liu. He thought she was absolutely adorable in it. So he rewrote her character to,
The short story, too, also is impressive because it works as, like, its own, or I should say the animated story. It works kind of as, like, its own short story in a way. Mm-hmm. So,
I
thought that was cool. Like, standing on its own while also being integrated into the larger story.
Mm-hmm. And so, I guess it just feels the more non-linear-esque, the more non-linear standpoint of this, where people have a hard time with, like, Pulp Fiction or maybe Inglorious or however you want to view it with some of his films. I think this one is where it felt most prevalent to me.
Yeah.
And that's maybe some of why it feels a little stilted.
Yeah, this movie, it definitely feels like it has the most things that branch off from the main storyline.
Yes.
Or at least, like, takes different parts of the branches and, like, rearranges them.
Yes.
Not necessarily, like, going off in a different direction, but just kind of like, oh, we're going to take this piece and we're going to put it in the middle.
Yep.
Even though it, like, canonically goes towards the end. But
and most of the time I don't have an issue with it. I think this is, and for me, I think it's just because it's funny that you said that this is his most, like, un-Tarantino, like, written movie. I said that this feels like his weakest film, but I think it's because of that parallel you're talking about between, you're saying the writing, which is 100% right, and I think that's where I get drawn off, and I could be more so where I am expecting a Tarantino written movie as opposed to a Tarantino directed movie, so that's why maybe too that I'm a little, not swayed on this being a kick-ass film, but.
So when you, and this isn't to, like, interrogate you or anything.
It does, yeah.
Just in terms of, like, what you want to get out of a Tarantino movie, it sounds more like you, because your favorite is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I really like that movie too. But that movie is way more, like, it has a lot more character depth, I would say, than this movie. It relies almost solely on characters talking to each other and the dialogue and, like, the writing that Tarantino puts into it. A
little bit of the scenarios too and where you're at in life. I think the friendship that they have is pretty critical to that film being a success.
Yeah, but I guess my question for you is, it seems like you tend to gravitate more towards the films that the dialogue is sort of 100%. A big part of, like, what makes those movies special.
Yes. If when we talk about films that we love, I am big on, I love the dialogue and the scenarios and information that's pulled and some of the trivia that can be strewn from it or trivial aspects within the film that happen, but make it a little bit maybe more cultural referencey, or if you want, for me, just things that I can pull from films that make my life go and things that I kind of put into my piggy bank as maybe principles or things to, just remember. If you're going through something, you can remember that, hey, Uma Thurman, if I ever get buried alive, I'm going to do that thing with that Uma Thurman did. We'll talk about that in the second one, but.
Right.
There are, like, instances like that. And I think that's why I like a lot of, like, the Once Upon a Time, Pulp Fiction, even Inglorious. My favorite scene in Inglourious Basterds is when they're at the bottom of the bar and they're just playing the game. and there's an interrogation going on just within the game itself.
Yeah.
So for me, this one was a more stylized, action-y film that didn't rely at all on any of the dialogue and simply by what he was putting on the screen in front of us. And I think it was a statement for him that he doesn't have to be pigeonholed. And I think that he struggled. Like, he even said, I struggled with Jackie Brown and kind of the lack of commercial success and wasn't very sure about his directing chops. And I think it highlights him as a director just to be able to pivot like that. A lot of guys, I think, if you see when their films start going downhill, they just go downhill because they don't know how to respond.
M. Night?
Yes. Whoever fucking did Moonfall.
Roland Emmerich.
Fuck.
It's like a Gollum sound right there. Jesus.
God. Independent saying you make Moonfall. I mean, seriously, Roland?
You could say he definitely has moonfalled.
Yeah.
From grace.
Yeah.
No, in terms of like me really loving this movie, I think I like to lean more into a lot of the kind of tone and the atmosphere and a lot of like what the movie is trying to go for in terms of like how it wants me to feel. And I think what this movie really was going for was just overall like kind of fun in displaying all the different genres and all the different sort of styles that he wanted to bring forward while kind of creating something of his own. Like you look at this poster and you don't really think, oh, this is a Western, or this is like a Kung Fu movie, or this is like specifically this type of genre. You look at it and you think, this is Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill. Like to me, it's a very iconic cover with Uma Thurman with the yellow on the front. And it kind of creates its own tone for itself in that way. It like uses different genres to sort of establish itself and kind of put itself out there and say, hey, I'm my own special thing, while also clearly paying homage to like these other things. Like I really love the fact that it does that, and the action's fun.
Yes.
Like it's just enjoyable. I got a huge kick out of all the different limbs being chopped off and the practicality of it. Like the stunt coordinations that went into this movie, to me, are insane.
Oh yeah.
Like people getting flung back, crashing into shit. It's almost like that scene we were talking about in The Warriors where they have the bathroom fight, like people getting flung into the bathroom stalls and shit's breaking everywhere. Like you get that in this movie times 10. And I think that I really love how they did it. Like to me that just holds itself on its own, and why I think I really enjoyed this movie.
That's good. I mean, that speaks more to you too, because I mean, you're saying you're branching off more than just in terms of writing, but actually movies themselves.
And that's not to say that I don't appreciate Quentin Tarantino movies when the dialogue is like super noticeable or strong. Like
I'm not saying
my
that.
favorite scene in Inglourious Bastards is the beginning with Hans and the guy in the hut. Like I think that is like my favorite scene. Just Django has a lot of really good dialogue moments too that just stick with me. Really good character writing in that movie too.
No, but what I'm saying is, if you're a writer, you'll dissect the writing. If I was a cinematographer, I might be looking more at the cinematography as opposed to looking at the writing or the direction of the acting. I think that it speaks more to you that this film, because I was curious as your thoughts on it. I got another buddy that loves this film. He made me watch it. That's why I've seen it once already. And I always said there might be people that sit on kind of two sides with it. But I don't think that there's any way you could say that this is a bad film. Well, I bet you could.
You can find people.
If they really want to poke holes at it and say that he pulled all this shit from different people and this is like outlandish, and it goes nowhere, then I bet you there are people like that. But I think that a vast majority of people could honestly say that this is a good film regardless.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, if they don't like this movie, it just boils down to they just didn't have the taste for it. Like their taste for movies is not like this type of kind of pulpy, in-your-face action. Like that's not what they want to get out of it at all, which is fine. It's what they want. But I think I got a lot out of this movie.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed it. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on that we didn't? I can't really think of too much else.
Think of
without getting to the second
any
one.
sort of trivia stuff that I saw. I mean, for the most part, just some of the how this got made and who was in it and why they pulled from it. Yeah, I mean it's more of it will go into the second one as we wrap up movie. But yeah, no, I'm good on the first one.
Okay. I guess I can give my rating for this. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10.
Wow, shocker.
I will say, and I didn't really touch on this when we were talking about it, but I guess a criticism I had is like a lot of the sound mixing. I had to put subtitles on it because I could barely hear what the characters were saying. And normally I don't have an issue with sound when I watch a movie, so it wasn't like my setup or anything.
I do the same thing, but I think it goes with the tone and what he was, the mysterious aspect, whispering. A lot of the stuff is always, the ones that were loud and boisterous. I did not have to have it for. It was when he was talking with someone, she whispers a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people whisper in this film for like no reason. Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say no reason. It's probably of the times. It's they're.
It's kind of like you said, trying to match the tone of it, sort of like subtly speaking about things while being in your face about the action.
Yeah.
Kind of like almost an inverse effect.
I think that I like the sound mixing in this, and I'm not just because of how I keep saying outlandish, but how a lot of that, if you cut off someone's arm, they'd go whack. Like they would do fun stuff like that, and
I loved that too.
Yeah.
I guess my gripe is specifically with character dialogue and like just the speaking volume.
Yes.
Like I just had to put subtitles on because I turned my volume up almost all the way, and I still had a hard time hearing what they were saying. Like it was a little bit frustrating, but it was not a huge detractor in my enjoyment.
Apparently not.
So.
Well, enough to knock it down from a 10. I guess a 10's probably pretty vaunted for you to make a 10 out of 10. I'm curious as the next one that you watch.
We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, what would you give it?
I'm actually gonna bump it up. I think I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 after talking about it.
Okay.
Like I said, I mean, this is one that I get bored. I'm not a man of repetition, so repetitious things that are happening. So that whole scene, while I can give it credit for, what it did and what it was for and how well done it was, it's still a 35-minute action scene of the same things for me going on. I guess sometimes like for you, it's kind of like how could, like splitting someone down the middle versus cutting off their head, or, you poke the sword in and then you move it one way and then half their torso falls off. I guess, for me it's like, maybe I've seen it before, maybe I just don't care, kind of like needlessly done, so.
I can see that.
But it's still fun, and that's why it kind of says, because it's fun, Jam, you get it?
Yeah.
Right?
That'll be the scene I think of when that interview pops up.
Literally, that's what I thought when I started seeing all this stuff. I was like, I bet you it had to have been after this.
Right.
Because it was like, I get to, like, look at me go, I'm going to kill 88 people in all these different ways, so. But that's how I felt. I mean, the dialogue's a little, it's here and there, and I do like the characters, and I just, it's what it is. Mm-hmm. I think though, unless I see Jackie Brown again, this might bump up above Jackie Brown, because I think while this one has very little dialogue, I think Jackie Brown, the way that he talks about it, is probably a sandwich that had one too many toppings of dialogue.
Mm. I'll have to watch that one and figure out for myself. Cool.
7 out of 10, yeah.
Speaking of 7 minus 5 equals 2. And 2 is in the title of the next film we're going to talk about, Kill Bill Volume 2.
Yes!
So I got the first one if you want to tackle this one. Football term. Haha.
Nice. So Kill Bill Volume 2, written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, produced by Lawrence Bender, starring Uma Thurman, David Carradine as the titular Bill, Michael Madsen. I don't remember what his character's name was.
Bud,
which is weird. The girls were all snakes and he was just Bud.
Wasn't his nickname was Sidewinder or something?
Was it?
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering. Well, I guess it was Bud and L and Oren and Daryl Hannah, Gordon, Lou, Michael Parks with a cameo, I guess you'd say, by Samuel L. Jackson. So Volume 2 is the second of the 2 Kill Bills. produced simultaneously. The first volume 1 released 6 months earlier, which I kind of forgot. I didn't realize that this was done all at the same time, and because of how long it was, they split it up into 2 volumes.
Yeah, because Tarantino wanted it to be just one movie, right? And then they made him split it because it was too fucking long. So
the runtime over 4 hours.
Yeah,
so it makes sense. Well, and it allowed him to do a little bit of the rewrite with the second one. I think I can't remember exactly what he did. He put in another scene. Oh, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
We have to go. I mean, this is just, it's 4 years later. The bride's already done her thing. You know, she's already had a little bit of her terror going, and it starts out with her getting back on track on who she has to take out. It opens up with her driving in a car saying, "This is where I'm going. This is why I got to take out these people. You know, this is who I've already done it to." And yeah,
pretty much just continuing from the first one. Right off the bat, this movie, I enjoyed it. I liked it.
Yep.
I was not as into it as the first one.
Yep, that's what, as soon as we started talking, I don't know if you saw me do like a subtle nod, I was like, I bet you we're going to have different takes on the second one.
Oh boy. Are we going to have inverse opinions on either movie?
I don't think too much, but there will be differences, yeah. Okay. I think.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, I mean, just right off the get-go, it's pretty like consistent still with the tone for the most part, which I really enjoyed. It like kind of carries over that sort of pulpy action, like the practicality of the effects and the whole choreography of the action scenes that happen in the movie. I think that in terms of like certain scenes, there's like really good compelling scenes, like when she's stuck in the coffin.
Oh yeah.
I think I remember like coming across that scene. It was like playing on TV or something, and I was a kid, because I remember there was a scene in this movie where she like gets buried in a coffin. I was like, when's that gonna come up? And sure enough, it came up in this movie. There's certain scenes like that where she's in the coffin. Her fight with Daryl Hannah's character, I thought was really well done. I thought that was really cool. In terms of like just the overall pacing, I think this one was weaker. Like there's a lot more downtime in this movie than there is in the first one.
It's weird. There's more like exposition going on that, if you were to look at this linearly, considered exposition.
Mm-hmm.
Because of where we're at, it's more of character depth.
Yeah, like you get a lot more backstory. Like you get a lot more of like who the bride is, who Uma Thurman is, who you find out her name is Beatrix.
Mm-hmm. Beatrix Kiddo.
Beatrix Kiddo. Like Bill would always call her Kiddo, and you thought, oh, it's just a nickname, but no, it's just her actual last name.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get that, you get a sense of like how she became like the assassin who she is with the training with Pai Mei. You get a little bit more like character relationship stuff, like between Bud and Bill. You find out that they're brothers, where Daryl Hannah's character falls into all this. Like, you get a lot more sense of like the story with this movie. And while I didn't think it was bad, I just think that it felt bogged down. Like it kind of felt like it made the movie a lot more bloated, I would say, in terms of like what it was going for.
Yeah.
The first one to me is so like straight to the point. You're gonna see a bunch of cool action, and you're gonna get a recognition of like all those like different kung fu movies and it paying homage to all this stuff. This movie, it kind of felt like it was trying to take itself more seriously with those moments of like character dialogue and like relationships popping up.
Here's the funny part about it though. Mm-hmm. So I thought this was shot 2 different times. Mm-hmm. This is all the same film.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's why it's odd to me that the first one was as much as it was, and then the second. I mean, because I'd like to see. He said that there's the Whole Bloody Affair, Kill Bill, which got released. That's why
it's released in Japan, I think, right?
I don't know. It said it got theatrically released in 2011.
Okay.
So that's why I was looking at it. Kill Bill screenings began on March 27, 2011 at the New Beverly Cinema. So I don't know. Maybe it didn't go theatrical or nationwide. Mm. But I'd be curious as if they chopped it up. Because there's two different styles, maybe that they put, they made one set one way. Because this is all one film. I mean, it's, you know what I'm saying? So it's always so funny. Because I thought that he did this because of his love affair with Uma Thurman, that he made the first one and had intentions of making a second one to spend all that much more time with her on set after X amount of time. It did. It wasn't. It was just all one.
No, it was and that's why I wonder how I would have felt about it if I did watch it like back to back. Because I thought about doing that for a second. Like I thought, I'm gonna watch the first one and then I'll immediately start the second one after I get done with the first one, which didn't end up happening. I watched them like a few days apart from each other.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that would have any effect for better or worse on how I would feel about the pacing of it. But I don't know. Just with this movie, it just felt way more bogged down. Like
there's limited scenes. It's not as frenetic.
Like the momentum of the first one, it kind of feels like it sort of pitters off.
I'd say this one, there's a lot more exposition that go into explaining. I mean, like you say, backstory, but like they explain the whole events at the Two Pines Chapel. They explain how she got to be who she is.
Yeah.
With Pai Mei. And you get to, and it explains how Bill knows all these people. It's just, there's more of explaining what happened in the first one that we didn't get to say.
Yeah.
The first one's just kind of like you're thrust into a situation, all of a sudden you're learning on the fly. Whereas this one is all of a sudden you're already in the situation where explaining how they got to this point. So, that's why I always liked it a little bit more, and it's a little bit more dialogue driven and a little bit more of explaining, and you get to see the characters of how they became who they are. And there isn't as much there are scenes though. I mean, like the Two Pines Chapel scene is probably like 30 minutes, and then the end scene is probably 35 minutes. So out of a 2-hour movie, you have two scenes that hold up 50% of the film.
Yeah, and those scenes are solely just characters talking to each other about the situation that's happening and kind of their philosophies on things, because you get a sort of sense of like who David Carradine is, especially towards the end, of like how he operates and how he views Uma Thurman's character, and like just how she would have lived her life if she had gone through with the wedding, and like she wouldn't have been really happy with it, blah blah blah. Like you do get all that, but I guess I wasn't like as invested in it as I would have liked to have been. Especially in terms of like how the first one went, because I got that investment through the style of the movie and through like the way it carried itself. Like I don't know, like to me, I wouldn't say the writing is necessarily secondary, but it's almost like complementary. Like you get like okay writing with like really good action and tone and like visuals and like what's going on screen. With this movie, it's like you get okay writing for a movie, but that okay writing is like 50% of it or more, probably. Like it's like the whole content of the movie is basically just characters talking to each other. And I think that with this movie specifically, I don't know, it didn't feel like that was what I wanted out of it, especially from the first one. Like I wanted more of like that club scene in where they're doing kung fu and fighting for 35 minutes. I just wanted more of like that same tone going on. Even the whole little interaction between Lucy Liu and Uma Thurman where they say silly rabbit tricks are for kids. Like I love little tiny interactions like that of characters just kind of quipping at each other in like a very tongue-in-cheek way.
Yeah.
And with this movie, it sits you down and it talks to you and it tells you, hey, you're going to listen to some good dialogue, but that's going to be the movie. And there are scenes of action in this movie that I really loved, like the fight with Daryl Hannah, when she's trying to break out of the coffin. I thought that was like super compelling, probably my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's not like, it's not really necessarily what I wanted out of it. I wish it would have been a little more even keeled with that, like it was in the first movie.
Well, if you think about it, she's got 3 more people to take out. One of the people takes out another one in all of 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you get a cool fight scene, but then it's back to gotta find Bill now with more of, what's going on, how do I find him? Like the whole scene her going to find the pimp to get find Bill. I think a lot of it was stylized, and I think it was more of a Tarantino-driven vehicle than it was sort of for a movie. So I'm wondering if because it was 4 hours, if point A to point B on one aspect of it was completely different, where they took all the action and threw it in the first one and took all the writing and threw it in the second one. Like, I'd be very interested to see a movie where it starts off with her going to, the bride, and then her getting out, with the pussy wagon, and then going to Oren, and then it goes to Vivica A. Fox. Like, and it doesn't have to be linearly done. You can still have the cut scenes, but I'm just curious you find out with watching some of the stuff, he had a really tight bond with one of his editors. I think Sally Henke was her name.
Okay.
She passed away 10 years ago, and it was like very tragic, but they show like a lot of the stuff where every time there's a cutscene they go, hey Sally, and I wonder if her and Tarantino got together and said, listen, if we're cutting this up, I want to have one feel like this, another one feel like that, because if we just have it where it's chopped up in half, we're not going to get the right tone on either film.
Yeah, I'd be curious how that process went about.
If that's how they went. Other aspect is like they just, it's what it is, and
that's just how it turned out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I don't know. I normally love Quentin Tarantino dialogue, and like I'm very invested in like what the characters are saying and like who the characters are in his films generally. This movie, I didn't feel that as strong.
Well, how about this? I'll say this too.
Yes.
Because there's no character development really in the first one, the fact that we're supposed to care for the characters and what they're doing in the second one make it feel all that more disingenuous, because we really have no connection with any. The Uma Thurman's only one, and like we said, this opening scene is her killing Vivica A. Fox and just telling us this is a story of revenge. So there's really no I'm rooting for her the whole time, and the way that it's proposed is because of what happened in that church, but none of us really know until that second one why. So there's a lot of mystery going on. Is she getting married to Bill? Was it a double cross? What was going on? And then all of a sudden, you lose the allure of what was going on in the first one, because they explain it in the second one, and then all of the dialogue is really riding around between Uma Thurman and what happened with Bill.
Yeah,
all of that,
his reasonings behind it.
Yeah, and then there's no more mystery involved. There's no more what's the next step. It's more of how is she going to go about doing this, and then we're going to have one of the other characters kill one of them, some kind of cool fight scene, and then it's going to be Bill explaining why he couldn't let her do it. Which, my theory on it is that Bill is either a movie producer or Tarantino. And the dialogue between Uma Thurman and Bill is more so of, this is what you were willing to do to get to where you're at. Or it's, if that was like, if you said that she was talking to Harvey Weinstein, all right, so let's say you tell on me. You're just going to go, you're going to be another face in the crowd. If she, like the analogy being if she had married the jerk at the chapel. I had to do this to make sure that you are at where you're now. I didn't ever intend to kill you, but I couldn't see you going that route. Or you can view it as Tarantino with her and them saying goodbye, because of what happened apparently with the car incident on the road.
You want to talk about that for a bit, the car crash?
Yeah, so I
watched the video. Did you watch the video of it?
I read up on this.
It's freaky. Like, it made me really uncomfortable to watch. Like, the way she moves after she crashes into... She
grabs her head and it's just like... I stopped watching it once I knew that she was injured. Because she got her hand up there and then all of a sudden her hand started kind of going down.
It was almost like she started like convulsing. Like, it was really freaky. And
yeah, I don't think I got to that. Watch. Yeah.
Like, it was yeah.
Well, and so apparently she wanted this when this first happened, because she wanted to probably either, I don't know, she wanted to get some sort of maybe workers' comp from it, or
She wanted to see the footage of it. Right, that was the thing.
Well, it was, but it's like, why do you want to see the? I don't need to see me blowing out my knee unless I know I can show someone this, and either I'm going to get a lot of sympathy from people, or it's going to help me with some of my medical costs, or you know what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, maybe just like an insurance thing or something. Like, I want to see the footage. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like
yeah.
I think this was more of a money-driven thing with Harvey Weinstein going, no, we're not doing that. We have it, we own it, we don't have to give shit to her. And Tarantino, apparently they said that there's a fateful night in Soho. I guess it's a restaurant. Heated words were exchanged, and that's where their friendship ended. Because Tarantino was sticking by Harvey Weinstein because he produced pretty much all of Tarantino's films, I think, until maybe the last one, which was with the Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
So he still had
because he didn't do Once Upon a Time.
Right.
Yeah, I just know that like it kind of fucked her up permanently. Like it gave her like permanent neck and back injuries. I'm pretty sure. Like it was not a light car crash.
No, she's going 40 miles an hour, and he told the stunt coordinator wasn't on the set that day, and he really wanted her to do it to get her hair going through it. So I got something that I pulled up that we can talk about too, and if we need. Well, yeah, we're doing fine.
Yeah.
Once we get towards the end of this, make sure we still have time for questions. But it's kind of interesting because of what they say. But anyways, in this, the stunt coordinator wasn't available. One of the Teamsters on set, which I'm guessing is probably a union rep, was saying, "Don't do this. That car is like not drivable." Tarantino pretty much said, "Listen, you're gonna be fine. The thing's fine. It's a straight road. It's, just I need you to get to 40 miles an hour so your hair can move the way I want it to move." And she hit it slick. She tried to brake. Boom. And those cars. The reason why talk about cars. Those cars made back in the 60s, which I'm guessing that were like metal frame cars.
Oh yeah.
Like they weren't designed to fold up. So like when you hit something, that brunt of the force would go through the steering wheel. A lot of people had their chest caved in. And that's why you started getting some of these cars maybe for cheaper costs. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I have one friend that's listening that will just be shaking his head. But they start to fold up now like an accordion, so they can take some of that impact away on the blow of the force. But back then you could see that car, nothing folded up. I mean, she just took that thing straight on.
Yeah.
So
she took the whole force of it.
And Ethan Hawke went out and said something to her too. Ethan Hawke cussed out Tarantino.
Well, yeah, because they were married at the time.
Yeah, he was pretty pissed.
I can imagine.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think if I read right, didn't he like profusely apologize for it years later, and like he gave her the footage to release?
So after the Weinstein stuff came out.
Yeah, it was like after the whole.
It was kind of as it was going on. I think he had a little bit of during the whole Me Too movement, he had a little bit of a guilt thing going on where he was like, I gotta do this. But that's what I'm saying. Because no one knows where you sit with Tarantino. There's a lot of things that I think that a lot of his films, especially this one, you could say it's about woman empowerment. But some of the stuff I've read about, like Jessica Chastain cussing him out and stuff, there's a different take from a female perspective on his films.
Yeah.
And there's some of the things that he's done in these films that I didn't realize like he did until you read up on it, and it makes you, I don't know.
Yeah, kind of question it a little bit.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it, but yeah.
I wonder, because from like the movie, like the film story perspective, I wonder how much of that it affected, like the car crash and the whole kind of pacing of the movie. Because for a second, I thought maybe the car crash like would have prevented her from doing like more stunts similar to what she did in the first one, and then that's why there's a lot more scenes of dialogue in the movie, is because she couldn't like move around as quick, and like she couldn't like do all the sorts of things that she was able to do in the first one. Like,
yeah.
I'm wondering if like how much of that had an influence on it, if it did at all. So
depending on when that scene happened, I mean that could have been like one of the last things shot too, because they had to go down. They went to that actual place. I mean that was a real brothel, and the extras in there were real women of that profession. They weren't actors. I mean the only one that played was the gentleman that was sitting in the brothel, but that's actually like a real thing.
Yeah.
So that could have been one of the last things shot. I don't know, and it depends on where they shot all this stuff at, depending on with the scheduling and all that stuff on because, dude, the second film got released 6 months later. Like, you get to release the first one, and in 6 months you get to do your editing, any reshoots, right? Any sort of, you still have like 6 months, and that's still got to hit distribution and all that stuff. And I don't know if it's like, yeah, you get up to a week before it goes theatrical. Like, I have no idea what the time frame is, but it's a very, I feel, short amount of time to do any sort of changes. So I feel like there's a lot of it done before that. But and it's the same thing. Well, not only that. I mean, it could have. Her knees got messed up. She said, and she got a concussion and it messed up her neck pretty bad.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Sometimes I think actors are soft too. I'm not saying that this wasn't. But there's people that get in car accidents that still go and do construction. You know what I'm saying? Like, as I say, how much your knees got messed up. I mean, football players get their knees messed up every year, and they still go out and they can do things. So I don't know how much of it fell into, I'm very uncomfortable with my life now, and this,
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm not defending what he did either. I'm just saying, sometimes, like, you get a paper cut and you've asked for 6 weeks off from work. I think that you're soft. And I'm not saying that what she went through was soft. I just don't know the severity. I mean, they always do. Lawyers, when you get hurt, you always come in with a neck cast. It's the image of the judge to see that you're in pain.
Yeah.
So. And I don't want to talk. I mean, she was pretty upset by it. It ended their relationship. I mean, but now it's better, I think, because he released the footage.
Yeah.
He did the right thing.
They, like, kind of made amends a little bit. She said she'd be open to being in another film of his.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess that goes to show something.
Well, she might know that he's stopping after 10 and just did it for looks.
Maybe. It could be just like a PR thing, too.
Yeah.
What did you think of the ending of this? I thought it was, compared to the first one, it felt pretty anticlimactic. Not saying it was, like, entirely inappropriate, because I like how it ended with the whole, like, 5-point heart puncture, whatever, that they called it.
Yep.
I thought that through line was pretty cool, and I like how that was how she got Bill. Yeah, I like that it was included in the movie, but I don't know, just in terms of, like, overall presentation, like, the way that it was displayed, I thought that the ending of the first one was, like, a more, like, definitive ending, whereas this one was, like...
I did, like, maybe for half of a film.
Yeah.
There's still 2 people. The first one ended, I was like, oh, okay, so there's a second one. Like, even if there wasn't a Kill Bill Volume 2, I would have been like, oh, they're doing a second one. There's still 3 more people here.
Yeah. Not saying the first one was like, oh, you could end it at this point. I'm just saying that it's like, it feels like...
The movie had ended with...
It feels more climactic.
Right.
Like, this movie, it didn't feel as climactic.
I think there was more closure with this than there was climactic. Because that one ended on kind of you could have ended it on a hill peak. Because it's still, there's more to come. There wasn't any closure on the first one. I think this one definitely had closure from what we were going for. But I think that's why it a little bit more emotionally driven with characters that we didn't necessarily care about.
Yeah.
That's, I guess, my point, is that if you don't really, none of these people you care about, you just want to see them in these weird scenarios or see cool action scenes, and like this one, it sucks, And the fact that within the first one we really didn't get any of that at all, to have as much character-driven moments in this, it is lacking, because you don't really, you're kind of pulling for her, and you think, but then they have a kid, and I'm like, God, this is so, like, she's got that much, hatred in her heart. She's got to still kill him, right? Like, or do they end this with, there's more so of what's going to transpire within this conversation? Does she get more? And, he said he did what he did because he couldn't see her go on in that sort of life, and she wouldn't have been happy, and he knew that she wouldn't have been happy. But he also acted out of jealousy. But at the same token, because there's none of that defined, and you don't know if he's getting wet or not, right? If she had been getting married to Bill, I'd say there would be a lot more confliction with what was going on. I'd see the kid more as a hostage. But this one, it just turned out that he was jealous, had her killed, didn't happen, and he was looking back and finding out that he really regretted that decision. So I thought there was more of an analogy going on with Uma Thurman, maybe with what was going on in Hollywood or with Tarantino, than it was, just the characters.
Yeah.
Once again, if you don't really care, and I don't think that you had any sort of an emotional investment in either of them.
No, I would say I had like a little emotional investment. It's just the pacing of it really kind of stretched it out too thin for me. Like, I just think that's overall just how I
Truth Serum didn't do
it. No, Truth Serum didn't do it. The whole, like, I don't know, the scenes where, like, they're with the kid and like the kid's there and like I don't know. It felt like it was like a different movie.
They were it was yes.
It was like trying to pull on like, oh, the kid's here, like oh.
It puts you in the unique perspective of you've done all this thing that your kid's dead, and half of what you're doing of this is revenge, but it's also because they killed this person that you never got to know, and all of a sudden the kid's there. What do you do? And then you find out how much Bill did love you, and I mean it's kind of like she's put in a really unique scenario there with that child has been raised by Bill for 4 years of her life, and obviously, I mean, I think he's doing the right thing. It's hard to say because of who he is as a person, but they do portray him as being a wise old man, so you have to imagine that he's doing the best he can to raise that girl. So it's very unique that you're gonna, all right, this creature that you love so much was raised by this one who did kill you, so now you got to kill him. Well, what's that? How much of a traumatic experience is it gonna be for that one?
I liked his whole analogy of Superman.
That's what
I enjoyed that.
Do you think he was talking about Uma Thurman in this film?
Like Quentin Tarantino was talking about Uma Thurman.
Yeah, being a superhero because obviously she couldn't be killed, right? And then it goes on to talk about how Clark Kent does the best impersonation of the human species, and that he's meek and feeble, and goes on about how they will never be Superman, and that's why he has to portray him as such. Is there any sort of portrayal with Uma Thurman, you think?
Like with her character or the actress specifically?
Her character being that of a superhero, had to do like
absolutely.
Was she some sort of vision of women? And that's why I was thinking about if she had an alter ego where she's Beatrix Kiddo. Wasn't she also Black Mamba?
She was Black. Beatrix Kiddo, Black Mamba was her code name. The Bride.
So like the code, like if you went by if she was Black Mamba, then that was her. That was her Spider-Man to Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any sort of connection that he was trying to make with her?
Oh yeah, I definitely think so.
Yeah.
I think it was like more so like an analogy of like if you go with this, like you're never going to be able to shake off who you really are. Like you're never going to be happy with it. He even makes that point to where you're going to not be satisfied working in a record shop with this douchebag Tommy or whatever his name was.
Who the fuck is? But I did kind of like, dude. So I do like some of the moments that happen in here, though. Hey, Dad. Like, can I
call you Dad? Yeah.
Oh, hey, no problems, Bill. I mean, you could if you totally want to sit. That's not what Bill's here for. That's not what he's gonna do. It's like, oh, hey, I'm not stepping up. I'm just gonna go over here. I'm hanging out at the wedding party. You guys talk it out.
Yeah. No, I really do think that that's the case for it. I think that as far as like women empowerment and like that sort of thing, you can make the argument that like her wanting to be a mother and like raising her kid like superseding all of her feelings towards being that.
Yeah.
You can like maybe argue like, oh, is this kind of like a societal like expectation sort of thing? Like we expect mothers to sort of naturally be so attached to their kids that they just give up their dreams and like what they want to actually be.
Yeah.
But you can kind of make that case that that's more or less what it could be pointing to. Me personally, I think it's more just the fact that she is more comfortable being an assassin, and that her living a life with Tommy and having to forcibly be mundane would ruin her in a way compared to like still being an assassin and being with Bill.
Right.
A lot of it too, you gotta remember like Bill's talking about it from like a selfish point of view. Like he wants to be with her and for her to be in his life, and
obviously doesn't care about her needs or what she's
right, and like
thinks he knows best for her.
Well, and if he can say anything to like maybe convince her to be on his side, then he would absolutely say it.
Right.
So you get a lot of like character conflict there, which I do appreciate. I guess I didn't like connect with it as much as I would have liked to.
Yeah, I think, and I would still make the argument that it's just because we didn't do anything in the first one to help out with it, which is fine. I don't know how they would have did the second one to be the same way as the first one.
Would have been a difficult task.
So before I go on this one, there was a scene in. Remember Bud when he talks to the stripper owner?
Larry.
Huh?
Larry. Yeah.
Yeah, Rocket's got an assignment for you. Which I thought was really funny, because I was like, oh, maybe he's still doing stuff. And he's like, shitter's fucking running.
Yeah, I had that same thought too. I was like, oh, is he going to have to like shake down someone for money.
Yeah,
no. Literally shitter's full.
Thanks, Rocket. But where he goes, and that hat, that fucking hat. Take off that goddamn hat. I don't know how many times Bill Madsen, or was
Michael Madsen?
Bill Madsen. But Michael Madsen, Bud, would wear that hat on set, and Tarantino got pissed off, so that was in one of the rewrites. He brought that guy in there because he told Madsen all the time on set to take off the goddamn hat.
That's funny.
Yeah, so he wrote that guy specifically in there for what was going on outside on set.
That's hilarious.
Right? So, here, this is a question. So, I mean, and I think it's been brought up before. I don't know if we've always done it, but, you know, as a writer-director, Tarantino is famous for pushing his female heroines towards acts of brutal violence. But more often than not, Tarantino's women find themselves on the receiving end of the director's graphic imagination. Raped, beaten, killed, whipped, and branded. Like so many male directors before him, Tarantino's works relied on the rape revenge fantasy, an outdated trope that throws in sexual assault backstory instead of doing the work of female character development, right? So Chastain wrote on about that. Mm-hmm. You know, she's been, some of the women have been vocal about it. I think Jennifer Jason Leigh was too, wasn't she? From The Hateful Eight.
Oh, I'm not sure.
I can't remember. So I'm wondering, because it says, and yet Tarantino has often been called a feminist, usually by other men. It's an auteur of choice for cinephiles who like the director's mail and their feminist films full of sexualized violence and lingering feet footage. That's not true. Anyways, Harvey Weinstein himself called Tarantino the most pro-woman ever continuing. Look at Uma Thurman, Pam Grier, Melanie Laurent, Diane Kruger, right? So, one of the things you find out, Diane Kruger in Inglourious Basterds, the choking scene, Tarantino was the one that choked her out. And actually, during the filming, that he had to get, it was all done in one take, so they didn't have to do any more of this, but in one take, he choked her out to the point she blacked out. And they wanted to get the face, you know, because he always said choking looks fake, right? You get the, you know, in this one where Bud spits on Uma Thurman, Tarantino spit on Uma Thurman. So that was, and Tarantino went on to quote that he knew that the artful direction of the spit and how it should land is why he went to spit on her. There was another thing that I can't remember exactly what he did to Uma Thurman in this. I don't even want to quote, but it just made me wonder, because as being of the, you know, male species, I've always thought the same thing. And I still don't know if I sway one way or another. I think directors are all fucking crazy, and all actresses and actors are fucking nuts. There's a thing in Archer where he's talking to one of the chicks, and you know, there's an actress that's supposed to become a spy, you know, and she's doing it to get into character. She goes, I ate 50 feet of kelp to clean out my intestines. You eat it for 3 days, and it pulls out all the shit and toxins in your intestines, and then you poop it out for 3 more days, right? It's all fake. Yeah. Right? It's supposed to be a satirical, but it goes on to the point of how crazy actors and actresses are with what they have to do. Tom Cruise putting himself in compromising positions, all that stuff. So I was just curious.
Christian Bale with his body transformations.
Yeah, like all the stuff, and that's why I don't give, it's not credit to or against, but have you ever had any thoughts on that with Tarantino, or any sort of, I always thought this was kind of a woman empowerment movie, but when Chastain talks about it, it sounds like it's something coming from a male vision of what, you know, he'd like to see his females do to rise up.
Yeah, usually when I hear about Tarantino being controversial, or like a controversy around Tarantino for some reason, it's usually around race. It's usually around like the use of the N-word in his movies, or like the use of characters and how they speak towards black characters and black actors in movies.
It's not even that, in this one, it's drop Jews and Japs.
Yeah. Like just racial slurs in general. So that's usually the type of controversial thing I'll hear about Tarantino. But when you read that off, I think a lot of what went through my mind is the fact that because Tarantino, like you said earlier, he loves to pull from older sources and like older material, like the old Django or like whatever old type of movies and shows that he was really into when he was a kid. I think a lot of it kind of carries over like those very tropey kind of, you could say, problematic aspects of those movies, like damsel in distress or like violence against women or like different stuff like that. And me personally, viewing his movies as like a lot of them are an homage to something. Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is an homage to 60s Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Django's an homage to the original Django, as well as like just most westerns in general.
Spaghetti westerns, right?
Mm-hmm. I think in terms of like those types of movies being portrayed the way that he does, maybe he's not only showing like the good parts of what those movies were and like what made those stylistic, but maybe also like some of the problematic parts as well. But then again, it also comes down to the choice of like the director making those decisions, and like did he really have to be the one to choke Diane Kruger? No. Did he really have to be the one to spit on Uma Thurman? No. Like, it's one of those things that is muddied in how much he himself views women and how he, as a director, works with actors.
Oh, it was the choke. You remember when she got strangled by the chain?
Mm-hmm.
Remember the?
Oh yeah, with Go-Go.
Go-Go. That was him pulling on the chain when it was Uma Thurman. You know, Go-Go's pulling on it, but it shows her kind of like when he was the one pulling on the chain.
Mm. Yeah, and it's one of those cases where too, like, directors oftentimes they just sometimes can go too far.
Yep.
Like fucking Stanley Kubrick, how he treated.
He broke her.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the actress's name? Shelley Duvall.
Yeah.
How he treated Shelley Duvall on the set of The Shining was just abhorrent. Like basically just mentally tortured her.
Second time I've heard that word today.
Well, you were searching for it, and I unearthed it. Like a nice buried piece of treasure.
Yeah.
But directors in general, they just, I don't know, a lot of them are just really too into like some of the realism of it, and like, oh, we have to actually choke you, we have to actually spit on you, like all this stuff. It's
right.
like, no, you don't. It's just you want it to be that to make it more realistic. Like, I don't know, sometimes they go too far. And I mean, that's not to say that actors don't go too far. I mean, look at Christian Bale. Like,
that's what I was gonna say.
He almost fucking passed out multiple times on the set of The Machinist. He weighed like 110 pounds.
That's, and I'm not, I don't know. I don't know enough about what's going on. There's been 4 instances. So I've heard about 4 different things. Another one was Jennifer Jason Leigh with getting her teeth knocked in. And then the violence against women in some of his films. I don't really know if there's necessarily a distinction between him, whether it's a white male, white female, black female, Asian American male, Asian American. I don't know if he makes that distinction or just going, we're people, or if there is some sort of, gratification around what he's doing. But, I was just curious about it because I've always thought about him. I mean, he goes, they said that he likes to go in and find actors and actresses that haven't been doing all that well and put them in his films because he can raise them up. He did it with Travolta. Vivica A. Fox in this, he said he saw her in this like really small time movie at Blockbuster and was like, oh, she hasn't been in anything since Independence Day. I'm going to get her in my movie. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he goes out of his way to do these things too. So I think there's some sort of repressed something in there, but I don't know if it's
maybe like a sense of ego or something.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know why he does the things he does, and I don't know if there's enough. I think that Chastain definitely has an argument for what is portrayed on film with what he does to women in his films, but I don't know because like he almost had Ving Rhames or Bruce Willis raped in a movie. I don't want to say what movie, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I know what movie you're talking about.
Yeah, so like that's what I'm going. Like I think that it's not a double standard, but I don't know if he makes that distinction between it doesn't matter who's who or who's doing what. Like if you're in my film, you're subject to anything happening to you.
Yeah.
Like Eli Roth did Hostel 2, and both a male and a female had some sort of action taken against them. I think the only thing that would be different is if the director said, I'm going to do it to the female, I'll have the stunt double do it to the male. I think that'd be the only time I'd be like, there's something going on. So just curious on your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it seems peculiar. I'd have to read more about it too, that's the thing.
Yeah, 100%. And he did, that's why I said the thing when Me Too came out, the Weinstein thing happened, I think he immediately went and got the footage for
Uma Thurman.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was him just being... He's like, hey man, Weinstein produces all my films, and he wasn't strong. And he even said I wasn't very strong. I knew there were things going on because Maria Sorvino, he was dating at the time, said that Weinstein was doing some things that he didn't. And I think he was taken more so in a position of less authority and knew that if he'd spoken out, he might get blacklisted. So
Yeah.
being a weak man as he was protecting his own interests, which, you know, I don't think all of us do the right thing.
No.
You know, when thrust into a moment. So, but it was nice that he went out and did it, and whether it was PR or not, Uma got to feel better about the situation, saw it, and she got a platform. So.
I guess we can go into ratings for this one. Wrap this up.
Yeah.
What would you give this?
7 out of 10.
Same here.
Yep.
7 out of 10 for me. I think that it's overall still a good film. Like, I really liked it, but, you know, just the pacing issues, the fact that the tone, I feel like, wasn't as consistently there for me to enjoy as it was the first one, I think was very apparent for me. So
100%. There's two, like I said, I really like the Two Pines chapel scene. Loved it when they introduced Sam. I loved the preacher in it, and they're going through talk about sides, and I liked the groom, you know, and them going over stuff, and she's like, I gotta step out, and then she ends up talking to Bill. I thought that scene was fantastic, and then being buried alive was gripping.
Oh yeah, I like that scene so much.
And you get to see Pai Mei, and you actually get to see a little bit about how tough the character Beatrix is with what Pai Mei put her through. And, you know, that's the one where I'm like, whether that's a male or a female, I mean, having that an instructor do that to you, I mean, that's just going to toughen you up regardless. So that might be my old football coaching stance on it, but
yeah. Rub some dirt on it.
Yeah, but she definitely went through the shit, and it helped her get out of that coffin. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Speaking of coffin, I think we're going to resurrect some of these questions. Some of them we didn't get to
Let's go.
last few episodes. So we're going to start with the ones that we missed. So we'll start with questions from Jay Hall, good friend of the pod. Shout out. His first question is, Quentin Tarantino recently stated on his Video Archives podcast that we're currently in the worst era for movies ever, tied with the 1950s and the 1980s. Do you agree or disagree?
Ooh. You want to go first?
I can go first, yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, I remember seeing this comment, and, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with him. I think that, in terms of, like, originality, a lot of what films are being made today can leave a lot to be desired. I mean, you look at what's coming out, it's, like, primarily, like, superhero movies, at least like the ones that make like the big money, like superhero movies, big franchise blockbuster, like CGI fest whatevers. So I mean, I get where he's coming from, and it's hard for me to disagree, being as young as I am and not really experiencing different eras of filmmaking. I mean, fuck, Quentin Tarantino's been around. I mean, you said he's like what, almost 60 years old or something.
I think he's over 60.
Something that, like, he's been around for a long time. Like, he's been through those eras of movies, and so I feel like with him specifically, I give him credit and kind of trust that he knows what he's talking about a little bit more.
At the 50s, you had the tin can movies that they used to have. All the production houses would have actors on salary, so whatever movie that they wanted to come out, they would have someone come in, write the script, bust it out, and they were churning out movies at an incredible rate that were very simplistic, lacked a lot of, you know, character depth, and I think we're seeing maybe, you know, like, hey, we're gonna have you, you know, with your girlfriend at your parents' place for 90 minutes. We're just gonna put all these different scenarios, and then you have the 80s where everyone was coked out, coming up with the weirdest shit in the world that was like, you know, we're gonna have a bunch of high school kids take on the commie bastards, you know, but they invade the United States. Like, you know, not to say that it's not cool, but I think he's kind of spot on, but I have a hard time with it because this is the best movies I've ever looked ever, and the technical aspects with the movie and some of the cinema that just goes into a movie. I think this might be the best that we've been at it. You know, so I think a lot of what he's saying is we're losing the element of that, the writing and the originality, which I agree with you 100% on, but I also disagree with it at the same token, because I'm like, this is the best movies I've ever looked. I can't think of a time where I've gone into a movie in theaters knowing what it was going to be and be completely bored or like, man, that just looked awful, you know, without even the intent of it looking awful. So I mean, like, you know, I think there's think the lack of originality is what we're missing out on, and we're very quick now to bust these things out because how beautiful we can make them with all the technical aspects we have going on with sound mixing and shooting of it and the color, and we have all these new devices and we still have all the old ones. So yeah, I think that's a little bit of where we're at. I'm a 50-50 bag on it, and I think there's a chance there's more originality out there. I think we're being suppressed too by the volume of films that are coming out. It is like similar ilk of the 50s with Netflix and HBO and all this stuff that they can churn out 3 movies a year or 5 movies a year. I mean, Netflix has how many fucking hit Netflix?
Oh yeah, like there's so many instances where they just make something and hope it sticks, and you kind of a lot of movies I feel like today, not to like sound like an old man I guess, but I think a lot of them, the studios kind of know that it might not necessarily be like the best visually or like the best in terms of story or writing, but people are going to watch those movies because it has certain actors in them, like fucking Red Notice with The Rock and Ryan Reynolds.
Yep.
People will watch certain movies because of certain like controversial elements around it, like Blonde.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of different reasons why movies can be successful. Obviously, you make a good movie, it can be successful because it's good. You know, like I don't know why I thought of it, but like the first John Wick. Like the first John Wick is a good movie.
I wonder why you thought about it like that.
A little biased. I only wrote my whole thesis on it. Or like The Revenant. Like The Revenant came out, it was hugely successful because it's a good movie, like all around. People might have saw it for Leonardo DiCaprio. They might have seen it because of, whatever reason that doesn't have to do with like the storytelling or like the creative elements that go into it. But I guarantee you that a lot of people saw the trailer, they were just interested in the premise, and they went out and saw the movie and really liked it. So I don't know, you get a whole bunch of reasons why films are successful, and a lot of them are kind of shallow reasons, you could argue. Like, oh, we have to make this a spectacle, like we have to have The Rock jumping out of a skyscraper from 70, 100 feet in the air or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta have those in our movie because that's what people want to see. Like, they want to see big monsters run into each other and fucking smash or whatever. Like, it's...
The new Transformers coming out?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's all sorts of reasons why movies are successful. Not all of them being for the purposes of creativity, I will say.
Yeah.
So, hope that answers your question, Jay Hall. He's got another question that asks, quick thoughts on the first trailer for John Wick Chapter 4, speaking of John Wick.
I'm going to let you handle this one, because I'm not going to lie, and I feel bad, Justin, so we did talk about it. I don't watch trailers, so I didn't seek it out.
That's understandable.
It hasn't popped up in anything that I'm just being me. That's what I do, so, I know you asked it, and I have no opinion.
Just be you, girl.
Yeah.
Get that bread.
That's right, just between us girls and the pod.
Yeah. the female equivalent of the Neon Crew. So, yeah, I've seen it, obviously, probably, because I'm a huge John Wick boy. I'm excited. I'm really much looking forward to like the action. The great part about those trailers is that they don't reveal too much of like the good pulpy action that you get from those movies. You get a lot of the tone, you get the premise, you get sort of like visually what the aesthetics of the movie are going to be. There's some like gorgeous looking shots that were in that trailer that I'm like really looking forward to seeing like the depth of on screen.
Yes.
So like a lot of like really cool like kind of neon sort of aesthetic, like bright, vibrant colors.
You liked the third one a lot, didn't you?
Yeah, I really like the third one.
Was the second one the least of your out of the 3?
I would say so.
That's what I thought.
My order, it goes like 1, 3, 2.
Yeah.
So.
I think I was a 1, 2, 3 guy.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not expecting the story to be anything breathtaking or groundbreaking or revolutionary or whatever, but
right.
I'm looking forward to just like the pulpy action and the whole like practicality of the stunts, and of course seeing my boy Keanu again. So my boy, definitely gonna wear that Keanu shirt when I go see it.
Yeah.
Our next question. What were you gonna say? Something?
Nothing.
Okay. Little nugget of an idea popped into your head.
Oh, yes.
Our next question comes from Sam, your brother.
Really?
You know your brother Sam. He asks, will the Thunder in Paradise trilogy ever be discussed on the podcast? Didn't we talk about this?
We were going to do it, I think, when Sam was a guest host. We were talking about that being possibly one of the ones. This is Thunder in Paradise, I think, is like a...
It's like a Hulk Hogan thing, right?
Cheeseburger thing to dissect. So we'd have a lot of fun. Very, I think, delectable.
Okay.
Not necessarily...
It's not a word I usually associate with Hulk Hogan.
You kidding me? That guy rolled up, he's like a sausage bursting at the seams.
Oh my god, dude, yeah. It's like you got the skin of a hot dog.
Yeah. In the microwave for a little too long.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's possibly. I mean, there's so much stuff to go on here, and from what I talk to people too, I think sometimes a lot of people. I don't know if everyone's rushing out to see the movies we talk about, so there might be a little bit more going backwards as opposed to keeping up. Mm-hmm. I know a couple people do.
Yeah.
So I don't. That one would. Yeah. If we ever did it, it would be one of the ones where it's like, let's just enjoy ourselves.
Yeah. No, we just have fun with it. Obviously. Yeah. Like I don't know. I really liked our Star Wars discussion.
Definitely the opposite of that.
Obviously. Sometime in the future is the answer. Did you have another nugget of an idea come up?
No, but there's a movie that I think I've told you to watch a couple times if you haven't seen it. I think I'm going to tell you to watch.
Oh.
See. Anyways, I don't even know if I get to recommend it.
Not this episode.
We'll find
out. So our next question comes from Joanne, my mom. Shout out for my birth giver. If you had to eat the same meal every day for a year, what would it be? And I know the reason my mom is asking this question is because she wants to hear me say that is her chicken parmesan.
Oh, but you're not going to, right?
No, I'm going to because it's true.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I would choose that as my meal that I would have every day for a year.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have an AI crew party, and your mom can make it for everyone.
You know?
And then we'll see if everyone has the same feelings.
I will push for it.
Nice.
Don't give me ideas because it'll happen.
I think mine would be the Cherokee breakfast.
Can you explain to me what that is?
The Cherokee breakfast?
Yes.
So there's a restaurant, and talk about like Mesquite can be like disassociated with the times. Yeah, there's still a restaurant. I think they're gone now, but that was named the Cherokee. It was the Cherokee restaurant. Mm-hmm. But they do on the corner of Layton and McCracken.
Phil McCracken.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you could get breakfast there. So I'm like 3 shredded hash browns, onions, sausage patty, 3 eggs, probably biscuits and gravy. I mean, if this is every day, and I have to just eat it once a day. I mean, is that like I can only eat that meal?
Yeah, if it's a meal, I'm assuming it's a like a stitched like conglomeration of a bunch of different foods.
What I'm saying though is like breakfast, lunch, and dinner only that, or I have to eat that meal once a day.
Like if you had to eat the same breakfast every day, like you get to pick either breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
Okay, so this is my. Oh yeah, well I do this breakfast every day anyway, so it's no brainer.
Mm. So easy answer for you.
Oh dude, I love breakfast food. I mean shit, I can make that my dinner. In fact, I will.
Breakfast for dinner should be encouraged.
I don't know why it
should be pushed. I want to find someone who frowns upon it, and I want to punch them in their
frown.
frown.
That frown upside down.
Turn their frown upside down with an uppercut.
Well, yeah, you don't like my breakfast for dinner. Well, how do you like a fucking knuckle sandwich?
Yeah. What? Our last question comes from Gideon.
Oh.
Who are the sexiest SpongeBob characters ranked?
Interesting.
Number 1 for me is Squidward.
Nice.
Got the tentacle action going on.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Mr. Krabs because I'm a gold digger. I want that money.
Well, they just said attraction. Like you don't have to go and blow them.
Number 3 for me is Mrs. Puff.
Oh no.
Very huggable. Number 4, I would say Larry the Lobster because he's got those gains.
Yeah.
And then number 5, I'll go cliche. I'll say SpongeBob.
Really?
Yeah.
He's kind of cute.
Yeah, he's a little adorable. He's got his little eyelashes, his little buck teeth going on.
They never had. Who's the squirrel?
Oh, Sandy?
Sandy? Yeah.
See, I don't want to say Sandy because I don't want to accidentally label myself as a furry.
What's that?
You don't need to know.
Isn't that bestiality?
We'll talk about it.
Okay. Don't Google that.
Please do not. You will be put on some kind of list.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just going top 5.
Top 5?
Mm.
Like ones that like definitely want to have held in your arms. Like you held them there. See, I don't know. I mean, I got Sandy's up there. Zeus is in there. I think Zeus might be number 1, honestly.
Yeah. Are you like Zeus or Neptune?
Neptune.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, Neptune for sure.
I didn't even think about Neptune.
Yeah. SpongeBob's probably number 2. Then I go Sandy.
Okay. So Sandy, Neptune, SpongeBob.
Yeah. No. Neptune, SpongeBob, Sandy.
Okay.
Or no, yeah.
Well, who's the most?
Neptune, dude.
Okay, Neptune's the most.
like, you know.
So it'd be Neptune, SpongeBob, and then Sandy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, SpongeBob's adorable. And then you get Sandy. Sandy, I mean, it's just her eyes, you know.
That little southern accent. Howdy.
Yeah. Mr. Krabs' daughter.
Pearl.
Yeah. There's something sweet about her.
Mm.
Actually, I don't know. I take that back. No.
I was gonna say HC16 or something, or like whatever.
I mean, whatever that is in whale years.
Whale years. That's
Yeah.
true. It's like anime logic.
Is that how that works?
Technically, Pearl's like 200 years old, so it's fine.
Yeah. No, I'm not really. One, they're crustaceans too, so I don't really hold the age into effect.
Busty crustacean.
Huh?
Nothing.
Is that another thing not to Google?
Depends on your preference, I guess.
Yeah. God, it's been forever since I've watched SpongeBob. The one chick in the Ripped Your Pants song that got sunburnt, she's number 4.
Okay.
And then I'll go Plankton.
Plankton, okay.
Plankton, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like the sort of like, startup sort of thing, like, he's struggling to get his business off the ground. But
No, just another cute,
something like respectable about his tenacity.
Nah, dude, he's just adorable. I mean, the thing's tiny. Like,
I just think he's cute.
yeah, that would be someone. I mean, I could have him sitting, hanging out with Fred if Fred didn't eat him.
Yeah.
Fred the turtle.
How's Fred doing, by the way?
He's good. He's growing. So I had to go out and buy him another. Bowl.
Okay.
Because the one that we currently have, I kind of compared it like his first blankie. He's outgrown it though.
Yeah.
And now he's just like every time he gets in it, it's uncomfortable and the shell hangs off the side, so it like teeters down. So like if you'd imagine, like when you went to go like ballpoint pen and like you couldn't get it through the hole, just sit on the outside and you try to twist it around and no matter what, it wasn't going through. So we went out and got him another one. He's still eating worms, he's growing, tank smells like shit still, so we'll be doing well.
Yeah, well, sounds like he's happy.
I think so. I hope so. Every time I go in there, I go, Fred, how's it going, buddy? Then he always just hits me with this like fucking menacing look. Like I fucked up his life or something. And I think he's just scared to death of me because he thinks I'll kill him.
Well, yeah, you're like 400 times his size.
Exactly, like dude, like a King Kong, like walking in, and you're just like, fuck!
Yeah.
Like, and even if King Kong would like rub your face, and it's like at any moment, if he decides to step on me, I'm done.
Big monkey's back.
Yeah, like that's all he's just staring at me. The best is like when he's eating and I walk in and he freezes, and it's like he can't see me if I don't move. Like I'm a fucking dinosaur.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there just staring at him like, all right, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, bud. Like you can keep eating, and then I'll walk out and he'll do the same thing. Where today, like I walked in there, his mouth was agape, and he's just staring at me, and I could see his eyes tracking me as I walk, and I'm like, dude, you're in a glass container. Like I see you there, Fred.
Yeah.
Just eat, dude.
Whew, he's gone.
Yeah.
He didn't see me.
Oh my god.
Mission accomplished. Dear diary, today Big Monkey Man stared at me.
Every time. So I try to do the bonding and whatnot, but it's like he's a reptile. I just don't know if he's got it in him.
Yeah. Well, that's cute. He's a cute little turtle boy.
Oh, Fred's the best.
I'm glad I got to meet him.
Yeah.
So, that's it for questions. Thank you guys for leaving those for us. We got one more bit of business to attend to.
It's true.
So normally, how this would work is one of us would recommend a film for us to watch, or a set of films, however we feel like doing it. But this episode is going to be different because next episode we're going to discuss the movies that won the top 2 slots on our poll. And so we're going to reveal what movies those are now. Da 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 beep beep da 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 da. And those movies are Clue and Shrek 2. So congratulations to those films for winning the top spots. If you guys are curious, A Christmas Story came in 3rd place with A Knight's Tale in 4th place.
Oh.
And then with only 1 vote was A Merry Friggin' Christmas. So that
What
was
the hell's that?
That was the one that someone submitted.
Queen Latifah?
No, that's Last Holiday. At least
Last Holidays, am I right, bro?
Yeah. I'm in a Last Holidays.
So 20, more like 20?
Merry Christmas. Put up the weed tree or whatever.
Whatever those hip new kids say.
Instead of a star at the top, it's just a weed leaf.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of lights, you just smoke it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like what are those, the black lights that you have to put in the...
No, I'm thinking of just like an incense stick. Like you just walk inside and you just light the tree up and it burns out.
Yeah.
Fills up the house, take off the stem. So by the end of it, you don't even have to dispose of a Christmas tree. It's literally just the you know what I'm saying? That's right. Yeah. Science shit.
Science shit, bitch. So yeah, we're gonna talk about Clue and Shrek 2. I'm going to do this, so you don't. I don't want you to feel obligated.
You're gonna watch these films, okay? Yeah.
Mac is excited that we're talking about these 2 films specifically.
I appreciate everyone that voted, especially for not those films.
I'm going to do this. You don't have to feel obligated to, but I'm probably going to watch the first Shrek as well as Shrek 2. So,
Mike Myers, we're endorsing him again?
Yeah, we're circling back, baby. Cupcakes, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, baby.
Let's take a look under the hood. So, yeah. If you don't want to be spoiled for Clue or Shrek 2, probably Shrek 1, we'll want to touch on a little bit at least.
I got a great story with Shrek 1.
I can't wait. That's our teaser for episode 35.
Mac's great story that really won't be a story at all, probably pointless, no metaphor, just something that happened in my life.
It means a lot to me, though.
Yeah, we're bonding.
Yes. We're growing.
Yeah.
Much like Fred the Turtle.
So much.
So, yeah, thank you guys for listening. You can find us on www.neoncrewpodcast.com. We're also on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, various social medias, merch coming soon, working with different people, getting the ball rolling on that. Hopefully we'll have a crew neck design out soon, so be keeping an eye out for that. Very exciting.
That'll be super. I mean, that is.
Yeah, that is like actually like pretty cool.
Yeah.
What's happening with that? So
It'd be nice to have the Neon Crew wave going.
Mm-hmm. The Neon Crew flying that flag, that merch flag.
Neon Crew's crew.
The Neon Crew neck sweater.
I heard Neon Mafia.
Neon Mafia?
Yeah.
Who said that?
People.
Okay.
Neon Mafia's good.
Okay.
I don't
Neon
know.
Mafia.
I just like
Neon Gabagoo.
I'm always about get a name going.
Mm-hmm.
We're the CLC at lunch, the Cope Lunch Crew.
Mm.
Neon Pod, the Neon Crew, Neon Mafia.
There's a lot of different pseudonyms that we could undertake.
That's a big word with a Y in it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Like pterodactyl.
Yeah. Try spelling that backwards.
Nope, I'm good. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. Mac, do you have any parting words?
Of course, we love you guys. Thanks for the movies for next week, and as always, WWTHD.
Bye, everyone.